One Piece Heaven Defying, Awakening the Dark Lord Part 6. Charlotte had to constantly dodge and defend against sniper bullets from tricky angles. Although her moves were not inferior, it was difficult for her to launch a complete attack. Bulu Bulu. Hello? Enel took out his Den Mushi and answered the call. Ha ha ha, how's it going over there? Did Charlotte have a good time? The Golden Lion Shiki's hearty laughter came. Enel paused. Former Marine Admiral Aokiji, and who is that person? He looked at Katakuri and asked. Blackbird Pirates Sniper Van Oka. Katakuri explained. Did you hear that? The young master is fighting with these two guys now. Enel said. You bastard, you actually let him fight two people alone? Ha ha ha, but as long as the kid has fun, that's fine. Golden Lion Shiki smiled indifferently and then said. After we deal with it, we will rush to Future Island. Linlin's children, if you are interested, bring it to them. Got it, Enel replied. Then he hung up the phone. Master! Ghost Island has been dealt with. We have been notified to meet up at Future Island. Enel yelled to Charlotte. So soon? Charlotte curled her lips, as if she felt she was slow. Bang! Aokiji was knocked away by the blow, and Charlotte's steps suddenly became illusory. Her figure suddenly shuttled through like a ghost and rushed straight towards Van Oka. Now we have to get rid of the annoying sniper so that we can fight happily. Careful! Aokiji reminded loudly, half squatting and touching the ice surface with both hands, and the power of ice exploded. Countless ice spikes protruded from the ground, like spears trying to pierce Charlotte. But he dodged them all with his incredible speed. Even without Aokiji's reminder, Van Oka used the teleportation fruit ability very quickly to constantly change positions and avoid Charlotte's fierce attack. The knife missed. Both strikes missed. Charlotte tried to capture the position twice in a row, but Van Oka dodged it each time. Brush. Van Oka disappeared again and appeared in the distance. Just as he breathed a sigh of relief, he suddenly heard the devil's whispering in his ears. Ability to teleport, are you having fun? It's Charlotte behind him. Van Oka was suddenly startled, and a strong sense of crisis surged in his heart. He activated the ability of the teleportation fruit almost without thinking. Brush. He disappeared again. But this time Charlotte didn't draw her knife. At the moment when Van Oka disappeared, Charlotte's hand wrapped around Conqueror's domineering blue devil suddenly shook. Bang! He turned quickly and rushed in one direction. The sharp blade swept across, and the air roared. The power of dominance is overwhelming. In the blink of an eye, Van Oka suddenly appeared in front of the knife. It was as if it was specially designed to receive this blow. Dad said you can do it once or twice, but you can't do it 3 or 4 times. You dodged my sword twice. I will kill you with the third sword. Van Oka's eyes widened, completely locked by the domineering aura. Not only could he not use his teleportation ability, even if he could, he wasn't sure whether it would be his head or his body that would teleport away. Laugh. The blade flashed and passed by. There was no blood spurting out, only the head rolling down, and then blood began to flow out from the broken wound. The knife was too fast and the blood didn't react immediately. Van Oka's eyes widened, an expression of fear frozen on his face, and his head rolled onto the ice, staining a large area of ice and snow red. Van Oka dead? 3 swords kill. To know the future. Aokiji whispered, his palms suddenly colder than ice. Although Van Oka can teleport, he cannot resist Charlotte's observation haki to capture the future and predict his position in advance. So that knife strike looked like Van Oka was rushing forward to seek death. This scene had a strong impact on Aokiji, causing him to lose the desire to fight. Even if they can defeat Charlotte, there are still the users of the Thunder Fruit, Katakuri, and Cracker who are eyeing them covetously. Besides, even if it's tragic, I probably won't win. Although Aokiji was shocked, he still had his sanity and a clear understanding of the situation. So, after Van Oka's death, Aokiji prepared to escape. Ice Age! Aokiji's palms burst out with terrifying icy power, sweeping in all directions like a storm. Until, the ice front 10,000 miles sea. Akiji looked slightly pale. It's our turn to fight now. You're just wasting your energy by doing this. Charlotte strode forward with a knife in hand. But suddenly I saw Akiji's mouth curled up. Goodbye. The words fell. Crash. Akiji suddenly turned into ice cubes all over the ground. Charlotte was also confused. Damn! The unsportsmanlike bastard actually ran away. He never expected that the former Marine Admiral would escape so easily. Akiji could appear anywhere in the vast ice. Thunder Sea Dragon! Enel's eyes focused, and thunder suddenly surged around him. The violent force was like the arrival of the world-destroying thunder god. Katakuri and Cracker's expressions changed slightly. This guy actually has such terrifying strength? Swish! Countless lightning bolts gathered together, like thunder dragons, bombarding in all directions along the ice surface, shattering all the ice. The roar of violence resounded throughout the nations. The sea was shaking. View from the sky. The endless ice surface was instantly shattered by the thunder dragon. Puff! Akiji, who had just arrived at the edge of the vast ice area, was forced out and spit out blood in the shock. Immediately used the ice and moonwalk to quickly escape. Still want to run? Enel's body is illusory, so he turns into lightning and chases after him. Forget it, the guy who ran away is no longer interesting. Charlotte clapped her hands, having no desire to pursue. There's no point in fighting this kind of guy who has no fighting spirit. There should be some good guys in Future Island, right? Enel obeyed and stopped. What do you say, stay in Banco or come with us? Charlotte looked at Katakuri and Cracker. Future Island. Of course I went to check it out. Katakuri nodded. He seemed to have realized something. If he didn't go to Future Island, he would miss a lot of wonderful things. Cracker nodded as well. I want to go too, Bree said loudly. Let's go, Sister Bree, I will protect you. Charlotte smiled, stretched out her hand and took Bree to jump onto the Ark Proverbs. Enel, Katakuri, and Cracker boarded the ship one after another. Enel used thunder to drive the huge Ark Maxim into the air and head towards Future Island. Akiji looked at the huge warship passing by in the distant sky with gloomy eyes. Casa Yun, Casa Charlotte, Future Islands. What are they going to do? He took out his Den Mushi. Blue blue blue. Old man Garp. Tell me what you want to say. Garp's somewhat impatient voice came. Akiji took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Mr. Garp. Kazan? Why did you contact me suddenly? Did something happen? There is something very important. Akiji passed the news to Marine so that Marine could get more accurate information. Akiji then contacted Blackbeard to report what happened in Wangua. Blackbeard, who was on his way to Wano country, immediately changed direction and set off for Future Island. Future Island. A rumbling sound came from the sky. Vegapunk's clones immediately noticed something was wrong and looked at the island that was falling from the sky in shock. Is that a ghost island? How did it appear here? Sakia, who was dressed as a futuristic robot, murmured. Moreover, there are fierce battle fluctuations on the ghost island, and the weather in the sky is constantly changing with the movement of the ghost island. Is it an intruder? Lilith looked up. York frowned. All of Vegapunk's 6 Paths clones were alarmed and gathered together. And just at this moment, Vegapunk came out. What's going on? Isn't Onigashima the territory of 4 Emperors Kaido? Why did he fly to Future Island? Vegapunk was a little confused for a moment. But then he saw the sophisticated steel behemoth. Perhaps it was his intuition as a scientist, or his understanding of various machines, that allowed him to recognize the steel weapon as huge as Onigashima at a glance. It's Pluton, one of the 3 ancient weapons! Vegapunk exclaimed. Ancient weapon Pluton is born? Who created Pluton? Atlas, who is huge but cute, said in shock. Pluton? York suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. She has cooperated with the world government, and knows that the world government will wipe out Vegapunk in the near future. She also knows some of the secrets of ancient weapon. Uranus is in the hands of the world government. And now Pluton shows up. They don't look like people from the world government at all. Boom! Onigashima landed on the edge of Future Island, occupying part of the coast, causing Onigashima to appear slightly tilted as a whole. Yun ignored the battle on Onigashima and walked slowly towards Vegapunk. Big Mom, Golden Lion, and Marco followed him. There are only Kaido and Luffy fighting on Onigashima right now, and they are bound to decide the winner today. The rest of the people were all silent after Yun Thunder's attack just now. Their fight was meaningless. Is this Future Island? What did he bring us here for? Nami muttered softly, looking around at the appearance of Future Island. What a huge robot! Chopper exclaimed as he looked up at the cold ancient robot. I even feel that the robot is as scary as Pluton. Here, could this be where Vegapunk is? Frankie said in shock. The sense of technology at first glance gives people an unreal feeling. Suddenly, Frankie saw the direction where Yun was heading. The big-headed old man standing there. It's Vegapunk! Frankie pointed forward and couldn't help shouting. Vegapunk? That's the world's genius scientist Vegapunk? Why does he look so stupid? Usopp has clear eyesight and couldn't help but doubt. Vegapunk does look very strange. Because he is a user of the brain fruit. His wisdom truly exceeds the limits of human beings, Frankie said with admiration. He had trained in the abandoned factory of Vegapunk for 2 years, which led to great improvement in his career. And I also know some things about Vegapunk. Robin's eyes flickered, and he asked in confusion. Is he here looking for Vegapunk? The guys on the Ghost Island had no intention of going down for the time being. Vegapunk! Yun greeted with a natural smile. Who are you? Vegapunk was shocked. He recognized the Golden Lion Shiki, the Ant, and Marco, but he didn't recognize the man in front of him. But to be able to have 3 other people accompanying him, his identity must be extraordinary. His clones are ready for battle. Kasa Yun. Yun smiled faintly. Why? You use all your memory to study science? Kasa, Yun. It's you. It's actually you. You, how come you haven't changed at all? Are you immortal? Vegapunk's eyes changed, and he looked shocked. He finally remembered that he had met this person when he was forming a scientific research team. And when the group disbanded, Quinn went with him. But after so many years, when we met again, his appearance hadn't changed at all. I remember now, Yun said with a smile. There is no explanation for immortality. Are you really the real person? Are you also a clone? Vegapunk asked suspiciously. No one can make a clone of me. Dr. Vegapunk, I'm here to borrow something. What is that? Vegapunk asked warily. Mother Fire, Yun said slowly. Vegapunk's heart skipped a beat. York's eyes have changed significantly. How do you know about the Mother Fire? Vegapunk asked in disbelief. You're going to use the Mother Fire to activate Pluton? What are you going to do? Vegapunk was becoming more and more frightened. What happened today was really unexpected. But he also realized that Yun's request for the Mother Fire must be related to Pluton. That's right, what else can we do? Yun asked with a smile. York's eyes gradually became gloomy. Her reaction was always within Yun's perception. Vegapunk suddenly shouted angrily. You want to destroy the world? I will never give you the Mother Fire. Yun's expression remained unchanged. It was the world government and the celestial dragons who destroyed the world, right? And you have already handed over the Mother Fire to the world government, right? Vegapunk was stunned and explained. I had no choice. And he looked grim, as if he had something to hide. Found it, Yun suddenly said. Next second, a dark shadow suddenly appeared behind him. Shadowborn, Shadow Rocks. Whoosh! Shadow Rocks appeared and rushed towards the interior of the base. Damn it! What are you going to do? Stop him! Sakia growled and immediately issued combat orders. Boom! The powerful conqueror's aura in Shadow Rocks burst out, ignoring any attacks and disappearing from everyone's sight. Stop! Vegapunk was furious and shouted. Do you know the consequences of using ancient weapons? The use of Uranus has caused the sea level to rise by 1 meter. Every time it is used, it will rise by 1 meter, even Pluton is no exception. These are all it's the devil that destroys the world. Can you bear to watch the whole world being destroyed in the sea? Vegapunk has discovered the secret of ancient weapon and wants to stop Un. So if we don't want the world to be destroyed, shouldn't we get rid of the world government? Yuan asked. Vegapunk said without showing any weakness. That's not your way either. Yun, is what he said true? The ant looked shocked, as if she had learned some terrible news. Golden Lion Shiki also looked moved. The use of ancient weapon is only part of the reason. Even without the use of ancient weapon, the world will sink into the sea sooner or later and enter a state of zero. Yun said calmly. It has entered the final step, and it's okay for Shiki and Auntie to know. How could this happen? Yun, are you kidding? Laozi and you have been together for so many years, but I have never heard you say anything. Golden Lion Shiki was a little confused. Don't worry, I will solve this matter right away. Yun comforted him, his eyes sparkling with light. What are you up to? Vegapunk suddenly asked. He always felt that the man in front of him had some special power, which seemed to be easily convincing. Of course it's to prevent the destruction of the world, what else? Yun looked at Vegapunk, his shining eyes seeming to convey the power of hope. You want to save the world? But you have to use Pluton's power, Vegapunk said in confusion. He didn't know whether to trust Yun or not. Of course we have to use Pluton to deal with Uranus. This Pluton was just obtained from the country of Wano. I still have 2 Plutons in my hand and have accumulated enough energy. Therefore, it is useless even if you resist. It is better to cooperate honestly. Yun suddenly looked up at York. When the other party heard the 2 Plutons, they showed signs of attack. Or maybe you want to send a message to the world government. 3 Plutons! Vegapunk screamed. Do you want to destroy the world or save the world? He was confused. This is clearly a demon. I have my own way. Vegapunk, are you ready to die? In that case, why don't you announce what you want to say to the entire sea while you are still alive? As Yun spoke, his eyes were fixed on York. Brush. 2 huge shadow demons emerged, the phantom beasts Jin Tianjin and Qilong. They attacked York the moment they appeared. Vegapunk was still immersed in what Yun had just said, and was suddenly awakened by the sudden outbreak of fighting. Why did you attack York? She defected to the celestial dragons, and he reported all your secrets to the 5 elders. Your clone seems to want to replace you, Yun said quietly. How come you know everything? Who are you? York roared in disbelief. He was no match for the shadow phantom beast. York is such a traitor! Sakya and other clones were all shocked. Unexpectedly, the traitor among his own people turned out to be York. If you want to die, you can help her. Yun's eyes fell on Vegapunk with a bit of coldness. Vegapunk couldn't help but get excited and asked resignedly. How on earth do you know these things? He felt like Yun was a prophet. If what Yun said is true, then he is the savior. You just have to do your thing. I will solve the problem of world destruction. I hope we can have a good time working together. Yun didn't give any explanation at all, he just said lightly. The tone was plain, but there was no doubt about it. Vegapunk swallowed his saliva. You mean you want me to announce the news that the world will be swallowed by the sea now? This will anger the world government. Yun looked at him quietly. Nika, the sun god, is on the island. Do you have any questions? Vegapunk was under tremendous pressure. After a moment of silence, he suddenly gritted his teeth and said, Okay. Shakyamuni, prepare to announce the phone bug immediately. The broadcasting phone bug is a phone bug that can broadcast images to the world, and can force other phone bugs around the world to play its content. Even Vegapunk didn't know why he agreed to Yuan, and even felt an inexplicable belief in Yuan. Okay. Saki irresolutely obeyed the order and immediately went down to prepare. Is it really Nika, the sun god? Vegapunk asked cautiously. He knows a lot of history and the secrets hidden beneath it. Really, but I'm still considering whether to kill him or not. As soon as Yuan said this, Vegapunk's face turned pale in an instant. Ha! Yuan couldn't help laughing, turned around and walked towards the giant robot, waving his hand and saying, Don't make me wait too long. It won't be long before the world governance people arrive. By then, you may not have the chance to live and announce what you want to say. Vegapunk looked at Yuan's back and fell silent. He felt a madness he had never felt before. But the belief in my heart has become even stronger. Just at this moment, York's body was completely broken. Yoon, are you hiding something from us? Auntie asked from behind Yuan. She listened to the confusing words of Yuan and Vegapunk and felt as if she had lived in vain. Marco was almost dumbfounded and even suspected that he was dreaming. Originally I wanted to help Ace's brother defeat Kaido, but now I seem to be involved in the battle to save the world? Some things cannot be explained clearly. The existence of the sun god Nika is a matter of fate. See that big guy up ahead? Yuan said calmly, the power growing in his body gradually becoming clearer. About to break out of the cocoon. That big robot? Is there something wrong with it? Shiki the golden lion looked at the abandoned robot, confused. It also stores the power of Joy Boy. Yuan's words were earth-shattering. Shiki, Auntie, and Marco were all stunned at the same time. Joy Boy's power resides in that robot? What kind of Arabian Nights is this? On the battlefield of Ghost Island, everyone was watching the fight between Kaido and Luffy. The white flame clouds and the black flame clouds intertwined, erupting with an unprecedentedly powerful attack that was shocking. But Luffy gradually couldn't sustain the consumption. His body still has its limits. And just at this moment, suddenly, two black flame clouds appeared. Lucky and Kaku. Their animal devil fruits have also awakened. The two came very suddenly, and behind them was a group of world government troops. They were ordered to kill Vegapunk, and then they received orders to rush to Future Island. Saw Kaido and Luffy fighting. They actually launched a sneak attack from the dark. Kaido and Luffy, who were in a fierce collision, did not expect such an accident to happen. Not only did their attacks hit each other. Kaku injured Kaido. Lucci sneak attacks Luffy, causing Luffy to suffer heavy damage and lose his fifth gear form. The whole person sat on the ground, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. Luffy! Damn it! It's that leopard from Judicial Island! Stop! The Straw Hat Pirates took action immediately, and rushed here to support Luffy. Yes, it's you. Luffy raised his head and said weakly. Lucci stared at Luffy coldly. Straw Hat Boy, we meet again. You can't run away this time. Lucci and Kaku appeared very suddenly, and everyone's attention was attracted by the fierce battle between Kaido and Luffy, and they didn't notice them at all. Luffy looked very embarrassed after exiting the fifth gear form due to excessive consumption. Room! Law used his ability to instantly move to Luffy's side. Straw Hat Master, hold on. Luffy said weakly. Man, I'm fine, I just consumed too much energy. I will recover in a while. Don't try to be so stubborn. Leave the rest of the battle to us. Law stood in front of Luffy, staring at Lucci who was in the awakened state. Damn it! He actually hurt Luffy! Chopper ran to Luffy. Luffy, don't move, I will treat your wound. A sneak attack is not a manly move, you bastard! Sure, kill, Flame Star! Usopp slingshot, firing several bullets in succession. Lucci leaped into the air, dodging the attack. Mince meat! Sanji suddenly appeared beside him, and kicked out. When? Lucci also blocked it with a kick. It's you again! A powerful slash suddenly struck. Lucci pulled back, rolling repeatedly to avoid Zoro's slashing blows. Jinbei and Robin all came to Luffy's side. The Straw Hat Pirates gather. Lucci turned his head to look at the base, and saw Big Mom at a glance, and then saw the figure that made the five elders fearful. What is that guy doing? Lucci narrowed his eyes, curious about what Yuen and the others were doing. Under the attack of Jean, Quinn and the others, Kaku also flashed to Lucci's side and whispered. Lucci, the situation is not good. There are too many of them. The rest of the CP0 guys are probably dead. He had already seen the bodies of 2 world government agents. I think the results for others are similar. A trace of solemnity flashed across Lucci's eyes, and he turned his head to look at the depressing figure approaching step by step. You shady rats from the world government have disturbed Laozi's battle twice. Kaido's heart was filled with anger, and his tone was gloomy. He was extremely upset that he and Luffy had to decide the outcome in this way again. Kaido, I didn't expect you to be able to awaken. Lucci looked at the black flame cloud floating behind Kaido and said in surprise. Kaido only suffered minor injuries. Just now, an inexplicable shadow force helped him block most of Kaku's attacks. Leave Laozi alone! Go to hell, Laozi! Kaido roared, wielded the 8 precepts, and entangled Conqueror's domineering aura. The flame cloud behind him fluttered wildly, condensing into a destructive blow. And just at this moment, the sound of thunder exploding came from the sky. A huge golden arc descended from the sky. But there was a figure that fell down first. Boom! The air was filled with smoke and dust. It instantly caught everyone's attention. Then a young man walked out slowly, with blood rushing through his body and a faint domineering aura emanating from his body. It's like a ferocious beast, extremely oppressive. I'm in time, Uncle Kaido, long time no see. It was Charlotte. Why are you here, kid? Step back quickly. I'm so angry that I need to vent it. Kaido said immediately. No, you should take a break. Let me help you beat these 2, awakened animal-type guys. Charlotte took the initiative to take on the task. His goal now is to challenge all the strong men in the sea. Just defeat them one by one. Only then will he have the qualifications to challenge Yuen. Boom. Arc Proverbs landed. Flying is indeed much faster than sailing. Eno, Katakuri, Cracker, and Broly jumped off the arc. Where's Mom? Broly looked for Big Mom immediately, and breathed a sigh of relief after making sure she was safe. Why are you here too? Kaido slowly put away the attack he had been charging up. He had just been fighting with Luffy and had no idea about the conversation between Golden Lion and Enel. It was arranged by the boss, Enel said with a smile. Who are the enemies? Katakuri stared at Luffy and said in a deep voice. Straw Hat Boy, we meet again. Ah, it's you. Luffy raised his head and smiled. Even in his weak state, he was still burning with fighting spirit. Forget it, I won't fight you in your current state. Katakuri shook his head, disdainful of taking advantage of someone in distress. Hey, can someone pay attention to me? Please tell me who I need to kill. Enel urged, digging his ears. A bunch of people are wasting time, and these 2 are taking 1 each. Charlotte greeted. Clang! The blue devil is unsheathed. The blade pointed directly at Lucci. Okay. Enel responded. Thunder surged and slowly spread around him. Lucci and Kaku looked at each other, and saw confusion in each other's eyes. Who are these 2 guys? There's no information at all. The flame in his hand seems to be blue, but it's a little different. Is that guy the user of the Thunder Fruit? Lucci and Kaku didn't know Charlotte and Enel at all. So are the Straw Hat Pirates. When they ventured to Sky Island, Enel had already left with Yuen. Never mind! Let the fleet attack! Hold them back! Lucci fired a flare. Soldiers from the world government fleet that had been dispersed in the distance and surrounded Future Island began to land and charge towards here. Boom! Charlotte swung her knife and attacked, aiming it straight at Lucci's face. Lucci's palms were like leopard claws, strong and powerful, wrapped in domineering aura to block the knife. But the terrifying power coming from the blade instantly changed his expression. The body was blown away and crashed into the tilted ground of Onigashima. That boy is very strong, Zoro said suddenly. He felt the beastly aura coming from Charlotte, which meant she was powerful. Who is he? His name is not even mentioned in Supernova. Luo frowned and said in confusion. Never mind. Let's deal with these guys who are surrounding us first. Frankie suddenly shouted, and stood in front of Luffy, using his iron body to block the bullets coming from the front. World government soldiers are approaching quickly. Damn it, how come the world government's army came back so quickly? It's like they were waiting for us here. Yusupon felt something was wrong and pulled up his slingshot to fight back. At the same time, he had to dodge bullets. Zoro swung his knife to cut off the bullets in front of him, frowned, and immediately rushed forward like a tiger. Sanji was more direct. Relying on his strong body, he didn't care about the bullet attacks at all and walked side by side with Zoro. Law also commanded the members of the Heart Pirates to fight back. He replaced the unconscious Kid. Trafalgar, what are you going to do? Kira followed closely to Kid, but he laughed uncontrollably because of the failed artificial fruit. Don't worry, our alliance is not over yet. Chopper, I have used the surgery fruit to repair his body, but you still have to take care of some of the injuries. Luo turned and said to Chopper. Yes. I will definitely cure him. Chopper promised solemnly. When it comes to curing illnesses and saving lives, Chopper has a very strong professional ethics. By the way, have you figured out who defeated Kid? Luffy suddenly asked. The fact that he took the initiative to ask such a question was enough to show how deeply impressed Yuen was on him. I don't know, even Jinbei and Brook have never heard of that man, but since he's with Shiki the Golden Lion, he must be a strong man from the last era. Robin analyzed. Last era? So he's in his 60s or 70s? But he looks very young. Nami couldn't help but exclaimed. Things are getting more and more complicated. Now even Vegapunk has gotten involved. The world government and Marine will probably arrive here soon. Robin was worried. She still had a certain ability to judge the situation. Don't be afraid. I will recover soon. Luffy clenched his fists and pounded the ground. He will definitely protect his friends. Luffy, I'm so glad you're okay. The Elephant Master is also on his way here. When the Elephant Master arrives, the Fur Warriors of Zou will be able to come to help us. Momonosuke led the 9 red scabbards over. They succeeded in killing Kurozumi the snake, which was considered revenge. But wanting to kill Kaido, I'm afraid it's impossible. Everyone, you must not mess with the man with Shiki the Golden Lion. Yamato solemnly warned. When I was a kid, he told me about a legendary pirate, Kasayun. He was the most powerful pirate of the last era. The legendary pirate Overlord Rox was killed instantly by him in one move. The former Marine Fleet Admiral Sengoku was almost killed by Kasayun. Even One Piece Roger, Marine Hero Garp, and the deceased Whitebeard, even if they united, they were not that man's opponent. In the last era, he was invincible. Now, I'm afraid it still is. Yamato's voice silenced everyone around him, leaving only the sound of their accelerated heartbeats. Kasayun! Fear gradually welled up in Nami's beautiful eyes. He almost killed Sengoku with one strike. The legendary pirates combined were no match for him. Then we are not dead! After hearing what Yamato said, she felt like she was falling into an icy cave and felt even more desperate. Invincible, this word is simply too scary. Robin sighed with lingering fear. Well, actually, his target may not be you, otherwise he would have killed you long ago. Yamato hurriedly comforted. Now that you put it that way, I can already imagine that if that man wants to kill us, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. Usopp couldn't help but complain. Let's do our job first. After checking Luffy's injuries, Law stood up. He looked past the landing world government troops and into the distance. On the coastline, the ant-sized black dots gradually became clear. Those are battleships. Densely packed, endless. More enemies are coming. Luo reminded everyone to be prepared for battle, as the situation would become more dangerous soon. Then he turned his head and looked at Yuen, who had not made any move. Yuen, Shiki, Big Mom and others were walking down from the giant robot, and Kaido was rushing to meet them. It seemed like no one cared about him and the Straw Hat Pirates. What exactly are they going to do? An inexplicable doubt arose in Luo's mind. Ahem! Just at this moment, the kid woke up from a violent cough. His entire body was in pain as if all the bones were broken and he was completely unable to use any strength. Captain, you're awake! How do you feel? Kira asked hurriedly, his tone full of worry. Lousy feels like he's going to die. That man is so scary. Is he really a human being and not a god? Kid's eyes were filled with shock. The scene of himself being shattered appeared in his mind, his face turned paler, and the fear in his heart could no longer be erased. Kid's emotional breakdown caused everyone to fall silent. They can't explain it. Even more irresistible. This moment. Everyone present felt powerless. Everyone! We won't fall here! I will definitely become One Piece! Luffy's eyes were determined, and he actually forced himself to stand up. His words had an inexplicable magic that inspired everyone. The Straw Hat Master is right. Instead of wasting time on these meaningless fears, we should find a way to leave here. Our ships are all in Wano country, Luo said seriously. Nanny! Now it was Luffy's turn to be stunned. The pirate ship is gone? Yuan noticed a large number of ships appearing in the distance and whispered. It seems like they care a lot, they came so quickly. He didn't expect that the world government and marine troops would arrive so quickly. Yuan, what are you planning to do? Aren't you going to kill those guys down there? Kaido strode over and asked in confusion. I don't want to get involved in your affairs. How does it feel to awaken? Yuan said with a smile. Kaido nodded. My strength has increased. I feel like I can fight you. I advise you to try to keep that little bit of self-confidence deep in your heart, so that your life will not be meaningless. Golden Lion Shiki couldn't help but complain. Fighting against Yuan? That's not something a human would do. SHHHH. Hiss. Connection successful. Vegapunk has already connected the Den Den Mushi to the entire world. Mr. Yun, I'm ready to start any time. Vegapunk even came to Yuan to report. Then let's get started, Yuan said calmly. Good. Vegapunk began to operate. The secrets of the world are about to be revealed. At the same time, all over the world, all the video Den Den Mushi reacted at the same time and began to project out of control. The fleet is rushing towards Future Island at full speed. The slightly old Garanshing leaned back in his chair, sitting at the front of the deck, looking at the Future Island that was getting closer and closer. The figure deep in my memory became clearer and clearer. He was inexplicably nervous. Behind him, all the members of the Knights of God. Cyborg holds a Den Den Mushi in his hand and can communicate with the 5 elders at any time. Behind them were 7 huge figures wrapped in black cloth. And on the marine ship next to them, Akainu took the lead and stood at the bow, with his arms folded and a gloomy face. When he saw the scene of the world government, he knew that this matter was not that simple. It was very likely that Marine was just cannon fodder. Behind him, Jean Gua and Garp stood nervously, looking ahead. It seems that only by seeing it with their own eyes can they be sure. Kizaru and Fujitora were beside them, and Chief of Staff Crane led the reserve admirals who were on standby at all times. The atmosphere was extremely depressing. Suddenly, the video Den Den Mushi on the ship made a sound and projected images uncontrollably. The signal flickered and gradually became clearer. Vegapunk's figure completely appeared on the screen. What's going on? Jialanxing woke up in shock, frowned and asked in a deep voice. Report, sir, we don't know what happened. The video phone Mushi suddenly went out of control. The world government soldier said tremblingly. Vegapunk? So this is his trick. What is he going to do? Cyborg looked at the figure that appeared and immediately frowned. Fleet Admiral, did you arrange this? Sengoku on the nearby ship asked loudly. I don't know either. Gangukon crossed his arms, his face becoming increasingly gloomy. What is this guy going to do now? The appearance of Yuan was already a headache for everyone. Vegapunk actually chose to intervene at this time. This is a video projection facing the whole world. The world will sink into the sea. Vegapunk's firm voice sounded, resounding. However, Jialan Xing and all the world government people on the ship were shocked, and they felt a chill in their hearts. The world will sink into the sea. Damn it! What nonsense is that bastard Vegapunk talking about? Jialan Xing suddenly stood up from his chair, his forehead veins throbbing and full of anger. At the same time, all over the world, people were boiling with excitement over this sentence. But more people still don't understand. Will the world sink into the sea? How is this possible? Stop him for me! Jialan Xing shouted angrily, and suddenly Moonwalk stepped into the air and rushed towards the future island not far away. Gang Gukong waved his hand fiercely and ordered, "Release the Seraph!" After he finished speaking, he followed Jialan Xing. The Knights of God followed closely behind. The strong men from Marine also chased after them. A group of strong men, Moonwalk, rushed into the air towards Future Island. The huge figure shrouded in black cloth gradually emerged. 7 Seraphs. Use them all! Lasers shot out from under their feet, and they flew out suddenly. The people fighting on Future Island looked up and saw the large number of figures in the sky. All of them were stunned. Those guys! World Government and Marine! Sanji kicked the enemy in front of him away. All the Marine admirals are here! Zoro took a quick look and immediately saw several familiar figures. Grandfather? Luffy was surprised when he saw Garp. The auras of those guys are all very strong, Luo said with a serious look on his face. The current situation is somewhat unexpected. It was supposed to be a war on Ghost Island, but ended up being surrounded by the world government and Marines. Are they all here for that man? Oh la 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 la! They're coming so fast! Kaido picked up the mace and put it on his shoulder, staring at those figures. They are all old friends, Yuan, and only you can make them appear. Golden Lion Shiki folded his arms and said with emotion. Garanshing led the Knights of God, Kong Gukong, Garp. There are also 3 new admirals, Sengoku, Akainu and the new Marine. Mama! This scene is so familiar. Yuan, don't you have anything to say? The ant looked at Yuan and said with a smile. It's indeed very familiar. Yuan nodded and chuckled, but his eyes were looking at the farther sky. After the 5 elders arrived, everyone will be complete. Before that, let's get rid of these guys first. Laozi is very dissatisfied with them. Kaido looked at the strong men of the world government and Marine. His eyes gradually became cold, and a hint of murderous intent began to spread. Let's go and meet an old friend. Yoon stepped forward. Golden Lion Shiki, Kaido, and Big Mom are behind him side by side. Marco followed them, listening to their conversation, his heart beating faster. The magnitude of this scene is far inferior to that of war at the top. At this time, Charlotte was fighting with Lu Chi. The blue devil's light pattern flashed like a burning flame, spontaneously releasing the extremely strong Conqueror's domineering force. Lu Chi was suppressed and fell back one after another. Even in her awakened form, she is no match for Charlotte. The strong figure in the sky made Zoro Sanji, and the others retreat back to Luffy. The world government soldiers also stopped attacking and stood ready with weapons in hand. Kaku also retreated, separated from Enel. At this time, it should be time for the leaders to talk. Before the battle between the two sides, the leaders will have a friendly exchange. Only Charlotte didn't stop fighting. He didn't care about those things. I just want to kill the enemy in front of me with one knife. There are so many people coming. Then I won't play with you. Charlotte's eyes suddenly darkened. The power within the body suddenly surged, and the energy and blood surged, and there was a faint steam rising. He doesn't have a rubber fruit like Luffy. It's about reaching the pinnacle of your own physical fitness. Chi and blood, muscles, bones, internal organs. All organs and limbs are like precision instruments at this moment, reaching an absolutely perfect state of fit. The oppressive aura becomes even more violent. Conqueror's domineering force, explosion. On the blue demon, four connected lines suddenly flashed, like ancient mythical beasts awakening. Blue Devil 4 elephants! Boom! Exploding conquerors sweep across the world. The terrifying blade comes from the sky and penetrates space. Is this guy the child of Charlotte Casa Yun that Kazan mentioned? Garp's eyes narrowed and his voice was shocking. This sword is more powerful than ever before. Warring States looked pale. This knife reminded him of the scene when he was seriously injured by Yun's knife. The same sword power that cuts through heaven and earth. They even have the same knife. The only difference is the people. But precisely because of this, it is even more shocking. Yun's children are so powerful. Even judging from the power of the attack, it has surpassed their level. How can Garp and Sengoku feel better? What a powerful slash! This boy is very powerful! Kizaru couldn't help but sigh while wearing sunglasses and looking at the sword power in front of him. But his tone changed at the end, showing the shock in his heart. Damn it! Where do these monsters come from? Akainu clenched his fists and said viciously. A very strong boy, Fujitora said with a solemn voice as he watched the slashes of heaven and earth fall. Kasa Yuan's child. St. Jalin's face was particularly gloomy. Yun is an unsolvable monster. In the end, his son is still such a monster? He even prayed silently in his heart that it would be best for Yun to have only this son. Don't suddenly appear again decades later. Zoro's eyes were shocked, and he said seriously. This knife. It was actually cut by that kid. He was really shocked. As a swordsman, he can better understand the horror of that sword. No, that kid is actually so strong? Usopp's eyes widened, confused. In fact, they are not much older than Charlotte. That person will be my opponent. Luffy's resolute eyes said everything. He felt unprecedented pressure on Charlotte. This is the only peer who makes him feel so terrifying. Charlotte is so strong? Kaido's eyes widened with disbelief. The strength displayed by Charlotte made him feel a little oppressive. If I don't awaken, I won't be a match for this kid. Only after awakening can we possibly fight back. You monsters! Kaido said, gritting his teeth. I hate that I don't have this kind of talent. Golden Lion Shiki twitched his lips and remained silent. Otherwise, how could Laozi lose to him? Mama! The ant laughed heartily. Although there is no blood relationship, it does not prevent him from being his son. Charlotte's honor. Yun smiled but said nothing. This knife really has some of the style I used back then. The blade reaches. The hairs on Lucci's body stood up and his pupils trembled. The flames behind him, symbolizing awakening, were dissipating. The power of this knife made Lucci's blood seem to solidify, and his whole body felt cold. There was actually a feeling of fear lingering in his heart. In shock, he unleashed all his strength, concentrated it on his palms and blasted out. However, still unable to block this knife. Clang! The sound of a vibrating sword resounded. Lucci seemed to see 4 beast forms that he had never seen before, no. Among them was a blue dragon that was very similar to Kaido. This was Lucci's final consciousness. Boom, boom! The earth trembles. The ghost island was split in half and collapsed to both sides. But suddenly it was firmly controlled by an invisible force and did not collapse. Kaido couldn't help but twitch his lips and whispered, your son smashed Laozi's ghost island, don't cover it up for him, Laozi saw it with his own eyes. When Kaido saw Onigashima being destroyed by others, his heart couldn't help but bleed. Mama, good job on chopping. That gloomy island should have been chopped into pieces long ago. The ant laughed carefree and was genuinely happy. Asshole! Kaido shook his head speechlessly and cursed in a low voice. The storm gradually dissipated. Lucci was seriously injured and unconscious, with a huge wound on his body, almost the same as the one in the Warring States period. Even in the awakened animal form, he still couldn't withstand Charlotte's attack. Zhanhua looked at the familiar wound, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he couldn't help but clench his fists. This doesn't need to be verified. Definitely Yun's biological son. Damn, The wounds from being stabbed are all exactly the same. If Saint Satan of the Five Elders were here, he would certainly feel the same way as Zhangguo. After all, Satan had also suffered such a blow before. Lucci! Kaku's eyes were dull, and he was too shocked to speak. Lucci was killed instantly by a single blow? Garp's face was gloomy. This guy is stronger than Kazan said. He now doubted whether Akiji was able to escape because Charlotte let him go. Gangukong's eyelids jumped violently, and he shouted, "Boy, you are looking for death!" He swung his fist suddenly and hit Charlotte. It would be best to kill Charlotte with lightning speed while she is exhausted. Charlotte suddenly raised her head and narrowed her eyes slightly. The dangerous light in her eyes actually made Cyborg's heart palpitate for a moment. Clang! The sword slashed out smoothly without any pause. Collided with Cyborg's fists. Bang! The violent impact spread. The steel-boned figure was blown away several steps uncontrollably. What? He was shocked on the spot. I originally wanted to take advantage of his weakness to finish him off, but how could this strength look weak at all? What kind of monster is this? Is sheer physical strength so strong? As soon as they fought, Cyborg was deeply shocked. Big Buddha shock wave! Although Zhangguo was old, his reaction was very quick. Surrounded by golden light, he transformed into a giant Buddha, with a terrifying shock wave swirling in his palm, blasting towards Charlotte. Garp gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and charged out. Akainu and Kizaru followed closely behind. This kind of evildoer must not be allowed to stay. They actually wanted to kill Charlotte here before the other party could react. Fujitora did not join the attack, perhaps because he felt that it was too unfair for a group of people to surround and kill a child. There was a flash of coldness in Yuan's eyes, but he had no intention of taking action. These people want to kill Charlotte, so naive. But the auntie went crazy instantly. Prometheus! The aunt's whole body burst with domineering aura, and she burst out with a terrifying aura like a demon. She stepped on the fire cloud and rushed forward. How dare you bully Charlotte? Shiki turned around, spit out his cigar, and drew out his two swords to kill. Kaido instantly entered the awakening form, and the black flame cloud suddenly disappeared on the spot. All we can say is that Cyborg and Sengoku made a wrong calculation. Even if they attacked Yuan, it would not make Big Mom and Golden Lion so crazy. But bullying Charlotte, seeking death. Thunder Shuttle! Enel appeared in front at the first moment, condensing thunder in his hands to block the fastest yellow flash. General Kizaru? I've heard of him before. Enel smiled coldly and clenched his hands suddenly. The rushing thunder exploded instantly, slamming towards Kizaru without mercy. You can also move the prince. A user of the thunder fruit? Kizaru was a little surprised, but he summoned the Yasukani no Magatama at the fastest speed and blasted it towards the destructive thunder in front of him. Bring it on! When Charlotte saw everyone besieging her, she was not afraid, but became even more eager to fight. It was like the beast sleeping in my bones awakening. The peak limit of domineering power was injected into the blue demon. The strong conqueror's aura is accumulated to a terrifying degree. The sea roars. The seawater around Future Island was forced to roll away. Looking down from the sky, Future Island seemed to be in a low-lying area of the sea. The strong conqueror's domineering power is so strong that even the sea water cannot fill it up. Those world government and marine warships that did not reach the coast were unable to move forward and were pushed back by the waves. How strong is this kid? In the storm created by Conqueror's domineering aura, Cyborg's face changed completely. Garp's face turned pale as he watched the Buddha shockwave from the Warring States dynasty, unable to even get close to Charlotte. He yelled, "We've angered a real beast!" They couldn't figure it out. How could a young boy be so strong? How could there be a second Kasayun in the world? They were horrified, but their hands did not stop moving. Cyborg and Garp simultaneously throw their taijutsu fists. Galaxy impact. Akainu's arm turned into a huge magma dog head, biting forward, and the terrifying temperature seemed to be able to burn everything. The giant Buddha leaping down from midair, Conqueror's domineering aura wrapped around his golden body. All four of them launched a powerful attack at Charlotte at the same time. The domineering spirit was injected into the blue demon, as if it had truly awakened it, and all the patterns on the blade began to flicker at this moment. Like thousands of stars, dazzling. Is this the power that Dad left in the knife? Charlotte felt the unrivaled power awakening. After a moment of surprise, the fighting spirit in his eyes burned like a flame. The young man who shoulders the glory of Casa and Charlotte, facing the siege of four top powers, bravely takes a step forward. The low yet loud voice seemed to come from the sky. The future island exploded like thunder. Magic! Under the influx of Conqueror's domineering aura, the blue demons burst into endless brilliance, like shadows of demons flashing across the universe. It's like 100 ghosts parading at night. Heaven and earth howl. The light engulfed Charlotte's figure. But a violent attack suddenly broke out. Buzz. Boom. The power swept forward. Cyborg, Garp, Sengoku, and Akainu were horrified. Then they were drowned in the images of hundreds of ghosts, and the violent Conqueror's domineering attack bombarded them, not only shattering their attacks, but also knocking them away. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The four figures flew back as if out of control. There were even several deep scratches left on the ground, with half of their legs stuck in the ground. The storm gradually subsided. The sword force becomes invisible. The night parade of 100 demons dissipated, as if it had never appeared. Charlotte stood with her sword sheathed, gazing at the enemy in front of her with a domineering look, like an invincible god of war, with a dazzling demeanor. How on earth did he practice? As soon as Gangu stabilized his body, his voice suddenly rose. In his eyes, Charlotte is all Yuan's shadow. Back then, they were suppressed by Yuan alone and had no power to resist. Now Yuan's son wants to do it again? It's impossible for a young boy to possess such strength! Akainu shouted, his eyes full of disbelief. The rolling magma from the arm dripped onto the ground, making a hissing sound as the scorched earth melted. He stared at Charlotte with eyes that looked like a monster, as if he wanted to tear Charlotte apart and study her. He did not experience the Battle of God's Canyon 40 years ago, and was unable to witness the horror of Yuan with his own eyes. Even if I had heard about some of Yuan's deeds, it was not as clear as experiencing it in person. At this time, Charlotte fought against 4 people alone, knocking away the 4 powerful men. It completely changed Akainu's perception. Kong Gangu, an absolute physical martial arts expert of the older generation. Garp, the marine hero, is so powerful that no words are needed to describe it. Sengoku, the user of the great Buddha fruit and former Marine Fleet Admiral, needs no further explanation. He is a user of the magma fruit ability and defeated Kuzan to become Fleet Admiral. They are all strong people standing at the top. But even with their combined efforts, they were unable to shake Charlotte even a little bit. He even repelled them all. What kind of monster is this? With such strength at such a young age, how terrifying is the legendary Kasayun? Akainu originally thought that the world government and Marine were conducting a major purge of pirates. Now it seems it is because Yun is so powerful that he gathered so many people here. Even victory may not be achieved. Kasayun! Zhangguo's lips moved, and he looked at Charlotte as if he was dazzled, and she looked exactly like Yun. The nightmare buried deep in my heart resurfaced. Zhangguo's arms couldn't stop shaking slightly, and a hint of fear spread in his heart. I was already scared before I even saw Yuan. It is conceivable how indelible the shadow caused by Yuan's knife was, which has not dissipated even after 40 years. I am no match for his son? Garp's eyes widened, a look of shock and anger. He found it difficult to accept this result. Forget about being no match for Kasayun. Even his own son is no match for him. This is too much. Huh! Even my grandpa was beaten away by him? Luffy's eyes instantly widened. The Straw Hat Pirates were all dumbfounded. Just now I was criticizing Charlotte, but in the blink of an eye, she used her ultimate move to blast away 4 powerful warriors. Who can do it? Even Luffy can't do it. This guy is a swordsman who is more terrifying than Hawkeye. Only by surpassing him can one become the world's #1 swordsman. Zoro clenched the hilt of the sword in his hand, his expression extremely shocked, but his eyes quickly became firm. Unless he dies, Zoro will never give up his dream of becoming the world's best swordsman. Even if there seems to be an insurmountable mountain standing on this road. He's so scary, his strength doesn't match his age at all. Usopp pointed ahead in a panic and said, "He's even stronger than Luffy. At a younger age than his group, he has surpassed the 4 emperors in strength. What kind of monster is this?" Usopp felt a surge of fear. "Master Straw Hat, it seems our biggest opponent has appeared," Luo said in a low voice with a serious expression. "The scene before my eyes shows Charlotte's unrivaled strength. 1-on-1. No one can be his opponent. Is Kasayun's son also such a monster? Kasayun must not appear in the next moment." Jialan Xing's eyes suddenly condensed, revealing a cruel and murderous look, and he whispered in a cold voice. At first they all called Un the second rocks, but Un turned out to be an absolute monster that surpassed rocks and became an invincible existence. If Charlotte becomes more terrifying than Yuan in the future, what will the world government do? God's Knights! Kill! Jialan Xing drew his sword and shouted, then he dashed towards Charlotte in midair. Now that we have started, we must not give Charlotte a chance to breathe. Several figures from the Knights of God reacted quickly, following behind him and charging out at the same time. Luffy and the others were numbed as they watched another wave of strong men rushing towards Charlotte. Is this the feeling of oppression from a super monster? One person caused all the powerful people in the world government and marine to take action. They even disregard their dignity and ethics and bully the few with their numbers and the small with their big ones. You bastards! Get out of here! Kaido! The ant's furious voice was heard, and a domineering aura flowed around her. Her hair flew back and her momentum was terrifying. Here we go! Kaido and Big Mom still have a tacit understanding, and Conqueror's domineering aura instantly entangles around the 8 precepts. 2 burly figures suddenly joined forces to attack. Bah-hai! Endless shock waves suddenly shot out. The speed is so fast that it is almost impossible to react. But whether it is Saint Garen or other members of the Knights of God, they are all strong men of the same level as Kaido and Big Mom. They attack at the same time and work together to block the might of the sea that is impacting them. Jialan Sheng saw the right moment and rushed towards Charlotte with a knife in hand. Without even waiting for Charlotte to fight back, Mu Ku and Ingshi, flashing with cold light, slashed down from the sky. Get out of the way, you old fool! The Golden Lion cursed coldly, and chopped down with both swords at an extremely fast speed, forcing Jialan Xing to retreat. Golden Lion Shiki? After hiding for so many years, are you finally stopping being a coward? This time, whether it's you or Yuan, neither of you can escape! Jialan Xing shouted loudly, his eyes filled with murderous intent. The pirates in front of us are all serious troubles. They must all be cleared. This is the best opportunity. It may also be the only chance. Jialan Xing launched a desperate attack and reversed the situation, but he still couldn't suppress the Golden Lion Shiki. A flash of surprise flashed across his eyes. Golden Lion Shiki. When did he become so strong? At this moment, a light laugh rang in everyone's ears. Jialan Xing's body couldn't help but stiffen, and his momentum instantly weakened. This kind of situation makes me want to kill you. I don't even have the desire to fight back. The slightly emotional voice was filled with an overbearing arrogance. Just hearing the sound makes people want to surrender. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Law, and the 9 red scabbards almost all subconsciously separated and made way. But I felt extremely confused. World government is a group of mysterious masters. Fleet Admiral Kong, Marine Hero Garp, and former Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Marine Fleet Admiral Akainu, Marine Admiral Kizaru, and Fujitora. This kind of battle is more than enough to crush the 4 emperors. It can even take down 4 emperors at once. But even this kind of lineup, in that man's words, was not worth his personal effort? How is this possible? Yun's strength once again became a mystery to them. What's even more shocking is, no one from Jilansheng, Gonggu, Garp, etc. refuted, and they even gathered together at the first moment, as if they were facing a great enemy. The man who looked quite young walked slowly between Luffy and the others, without even looking at them. The scene was dead silent. No one dared to make a sound. The howling sea breeze seemed to not dare to set foot on the island at all. There is only the sound of footsteps. Smooth, steady, deafening. Jilansheng tightly gripped the hilt of the knife in his hand, looking at the appearance that had hardly changed, and a chill ran down his spine. The impact of what I saw with my own eyes was more shocking than ever before. The members of the Knights of God behind him began to breathe rapidly. Especially the survivors of the war, they were so nervous that they swallowed their saliva. Gang Gukong's eyes widened, his throat seemed to be blocked, and he couldn't make a sound. Zhang Guo's eyes were filled with fear and he was shrouded in nightmare. Garp clenched his fists tightly, but still couldn't stop shaking. Akainu felt heavy-hearted. This is the legendary strongest man. Kizaru just stood there obediently, not daring to say anything more. Yuan looked like an ordinary person strolling in the garden, but the mysterious sense of oppression made everyone breathe heavily. The footsteps stopped. Yuan came to the front and stood with his hands behind his back. There is no need to say anything, just standing there gives people an invincible attitude. Domineering and unique, looking down on everything. Jilansheng and Garp had a thought in their minds. They were still like ants in front of him. The whole place was dead silent. They didn't even dare to speak. Yuan didn't have to do anything, but the pressure had already reached its peak. If Yuan suddenly raised his hand and scratched his head, I'm afraid these people would scatter like frightened birds. No way. Originally, Jilansheng and the others came here with great momentum, but after they really saw Yuan, the irrepressible fear lingered in their hearts, and could not be eliminated at all. Otherwise, it would be impossible to have the thought that, I am like an ant. Yuan glanced at everyone and smiled faintly. When we meet again, you are not as good as you were before. In the Valley of Gods, at least he dared to speak out. Now, I don't even have the courage to take action. Gurgle. I don't know who it is, but the sound of his Adam's apple rolling and swallowing saliva is very clear. If anyone else dared to comment on these powerful sea warriors in this way, they would have been killed long ago. But now, no one stood up to refute. Kaido, Big Mom, and Golden Lion stood behind Yuan, looking at the group of frightened guys in front of them with pride. Marco's held breath eased slightly, but the shock in his eyes could not dissipate. He finally understood what his father meant by, the world is invincible, and all living beings are ants. Just standing there. All the strongest people in the world dare not move in front of him. What a strong and overbearing suppressive force. Invincible posture. Dad, I finally understand the power of this knife. Charlotte came to Yuan and said happily. He is definitely the most relaxed person in the room. Maybe also the one who is completely relaxed besides Yuan. The blue demon trembled and challenged the wheel of reincarnation on Yuan's waist. It foolishly thought that it had transcended the cycle of reincarnation. It's a good performance. Yuan complimented with a smile. There is no shame in Charlotte's performance. First kill Van Oka and defeat Akiji. He then appeared on Future Island, and with one sword he reproduced the power of Yuan's past appearance, and killed the awakened Lucci. Finally, facing the siege of 4 powerful men, he did not retreat even a single step and blasted them back. No one can match his record except Yuan. Perhaps Jilansheng and others are like frightened birds now, and it is also due to Charlotte's help in awakening their dormant memories. But Yuan said nothing more. The power of the Blue Devil goes far beyond this. In other words, Charlotte's power has not yet reached its true limit. However, he still needs to slowly comprehend it himself before he can completely possess stronger power. Mama! Charlotte, when the battle is over, come back to Wanguo with me. You don't need your father anymore with your current strength. The aunt said with a smile, which was surprisingly doting and kind. Mom, my words don't count. Charlotte made a bitter face and muttered softly. If I had the final say, I would have gone to Wandwa and my brothers to travel around the world. Kadu and Shiki the Golden Lion couldn't help but laugh. It's indeed the son of Yuan and Charlotte Lin Lin. Jialan Xing's pupils suddenly shrank, and he was speechless for a moment, and couldn't help but sigh. So you guys have been in touch all along. It's just that neither the world government nor the Marine has discovered it. It's hidden so deeply. Akainu's face suddenly changed, as if he recalled some bad memories. A louder voice completely broke the silence. Kaido and Big Mom, was it because of him that you injured Lousy? Kaido and Big Mom had a surprise meeting many years ago. At that time, Marine sent Akainu to monitor. As a result, he was injured by Kaido and Big Mom, and the position of Marine Admiral was almost vacant. Oh, that time, Lousy and Linlin knew that Yuan was still alive, so they went to have a reunion. However, Yuan didn't show up, so you came to spoil the fun. You're lucky that I didn't kill you. Kaido picked up the mace and laughed arrogantly. Thinking of that incident, I still feel extremely happy. Yes, if we had been serious at that time, you would not have been able to sit in the position of Marine Fleet Admiral. The ant said immediately. Akainu's face suddenly darkened and he gritted his teeth. Being laughed at in public. The Marine Fleet Admiral lost all his face. I suddenly regretted bringing up this matter. Jialan Xing's heart trembled, as if he noticed something from their words. Zhang Guo frowned and realized the problem. Kaido and Big Mom both thought Yun was dead? But the Golden Lion's escape at the beginning proved that they still had a connection. What happened here? It's Moonlight Mariah. Shadow Fruit. Zhang Guo's eyes lit up, and he finally remembered an essential problem that had not been solved from the shock brought by Yuan. Shadow Fruit. How did Mariah gain the power of the Shadow Fruit? Warring States finally thought of the most important point that had been ignored. Yun! What happened to you? The Shadow Fruit is obviously your ability. Why does it appear on Moria? Why are you still alive? Warring State's whole body shone with bright golden light and he shouted loudly. This question shocked them from the very beginning when they learned that Yun was still alive. Now, after the shock after meeting, I finally thought about it. This was said by the Warring States period. The expressions of Jialan Xing, Cyborg, and Garp also changed at the same time. It is absolutely impossible for two people with devil fruit powers to appear. Unless you are not a shadow fruit user at all, Cyborg said with suspicion. Faced with this problem, Kaido, Big Mom, and Shiki were also very curious. Of course they knew that Yun not only possessed a devil fruit ability, but how he did it was the most puzzling. Therefore, Yun is completely unreachable in their hearts. 40 years ago in the God's Canyon, I said that my power was the shadow fruit. It's such a pity. To be honest, no one believed it. Yun shook his head and sighed with regret. Impossible! You can't hide the appearance of another shadow fruit user. And when Moria appeared, he couldn't replicate the devil fruit's abilities. With only one shadow fruit, there is no way to create two ability users. Warring States clenched his fists, and his heart beat suddenly accelerated. He seemed to have a premonition that the problems that troubled them would be solved. Yun glanced at Sengoku indifferently, and suddenly changed the topic. When did I say that I took the power of the shadow fruit? The faint rhetorical question suddenly seemed like a pair of invisible hands, grabbing everyone's throat. Warring States was stunned, his eyes widened, and he opened his mouth but no words came out. Jialan Xing's arm shook violently, and the weapon in his hand almost fell to the ground. What did you say? Garp's nervous voice sounded, full of unspeakable shock. Impossible! You must be deceiving us. How can you obtain devil fruit abilities without taking them? Sengoku shook his head, resisting this answer from his heart. But his slightly dull eyes betrayed his true inner thoughts. Can you gain devil fruit powers without taking them? What a joke! It has even been developed to the point of awakening. Even more impossible. Nonsense. A fantasy. Nonsense. But, the only way to explain Yoon's ability. Even if warring states resisted this answer 1.8 million times and couldn't believe it, there was a firm voice in his mind telling him this is true. Well, I heard something incredible after all. Kizaru's unshaven face showed a shocked look. 40 years ago, it would never have been Vegapunk's technology. It can't even be technology. The technological level at that time was simply unable to complete the research on devil fruit abilities. Not to mention copying and cloning. What nonsense are you talking about? Akainu shouted with a gloomy face. Unless you're a clone, it's impossible to gain abilities without taking a devil fruit. Akainu's arms were filled with lava, and his heart was greatly shocked. A magma punch roared out and hit Yoon. He's definitely out of his mind. Impulsive for a moment. After all, at the time when Yoon appeared, it was impossible to blame technology for his own changes. To them, Yoon is just an unsolvable mystery. The rolling magma rolled up a heat wave and roared instantly. Charlotte's eyes narrowed and she was about to take action. Big Mom, Kaido, and Golden Lion are also ready to take action. But Yoon raised his arms slightly. The movement looks gentle, but it is very fast. Boom! In the direction of his palm, a column of magma fire appeared in the air without warning. Like a sharp sword piercing from the ground. But it is formed by the condensation of hot magma. Akainu's magma fist was crushed by the same magma, and large pieces of magma splashed on the ground, making a hissing sound of charring. Magma. Yoon summons magma. No one doubted that Akainu himself manipulated the magma to defeat his own attack. How is this possible? How can you possess the power of magma? Akainu's expression suddenly became horrified. The doubtful emotion just now turned into unacceptable fear and shock at this moment. Magma. Yoon can use magma. Even without any warning, he directly summoned magma. It looks even more incredible than himself, a user of the magma fruit ability. The power of magma? What on earth is going on? What kind of power do you possess? Jialanxing took a step back uncontrollably, witnessing the most shocking thing in his life. 2 magma fruit ability users use their abilities at the same time? What kind of scene is this? You know, these are 2 completely unrelated people. Not a technological clone like Seraph. Garp and Sengoku were both so shocked that they were speechless for a moment. That man's ability, what on earth is going on? Why can he use magma? Luo was confused and found it even more incredible. He had roughly guessed it when they were talking about the shadow fruit just now. But how to explain it now? Akainu's magma power appeared in another person? Oh my god! What is going on? I am not dreaming! Usopp rubbed his face and turned to Zoro and said, Zoro, wake me up! Zoro curled his lips and ignored Usopp, but his eyes could not hide his shock. This scene was incomprehensible to anyone. Lava? You don't think I can only use magma, do you? Yoon chuckled. I saw him turn his palm over with his palm facing up. Sizzle! A ball of thunder suddenly appeared in the palm of his hand. Then the thunder solidified silently and turned into ice. A chilly air instantly spread across the entire island, causing many people to shudder. But the chill in the hearts of Garanshing, Garp, Sengoku, and Akainu was far more terrifying than the chill they felt on their skin. Phew! The ice ball suddenly started to burn without warning, turning into a fireball burning in Yuan's palm. Is that the ability of Ace and Sabo? Luffy covered his head. Extremely unbelievable. The fireball gradually solidified and turned into deeper magma. Akainu's eyes were dull and he was completely numb. The magma suddenly became bright, a very dazzling ball of light. What? The pupils under Kizaru's sunglasses suddenly dilated, as if he had seen a ghost. The power of the flash fruit. Lightning, ice, fire, magma, flash. All abilities appear in one person. A terrifying phenomenon that cannot be explained at all. This moment. How many people hope that what Usopp just said is true? If only this were a dream. Energy flickered in Yun's palm, eventually forming a balanced existence with various abilities intertwined. It was like the most mysterious treasure of the sea, rhythmically moving in his palm. Unbelievable, unacceptable, extremely shocking. Various emotions were revealed in the dull eyes of Jialin Sheng, Sengoku, and Garp. They were totally confused at this point. One person possesses several Logia abilities. This is simply impossible. Judging from the power fluctuations transmitted, the fluctuations in Yuan's palm are not a trick at all. But truly master these abilities. How on earth is this done? You, what kind of monster are you? Zhang Guo was unable to come back to his senses for a long time, and the shock in his heart lingered. Yun is a monster. Incredible monster. He even doubted whether Yun was human. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could someone possess multiple devil fruit abilities at the same time? Cyborg shook his head, his expression gradually collapsing. He couldn't accept this fact. The uniqueness of devil fruit users has become a joke. How can so many devil fruit abilities coexist in one person? Blackbeard is already a pervert for mastering 2 devil fruit abilities. How to explain the present situation? Where did you get our abilities? Akaina yelled in disbelief. At this point they were completely confused. The shock has already numbed me. Eh? I seem to feel that my ability also exists in him? Luffy scratched his head and said in confusion. Is this true? I feel the same way. Brook resonated. Could it be that he is the most perfect experimental subject? An extremely absurd idea emerged in Sanji's mind. Marco was stunned. This situation. Dad didn't tell me about it. Dad, why don't you come and see for yourself what's going on? The world is solemn and bleak. Only the ball of energy in Yun's hand was shining. Who says you have to take a devil fruit to gain devil fruit powers? Yuan's faint laughter carried on the wind. But it was like thunder, exploding in the ears of world government and marine. It was more like a heavy hammer, hitting their hearts. Jialin Xing, Gangu Kong and the others racked their brains to figure it out, and they couldn't accept this fact. Gaining devil fruit powers without taking devil fruits? What a fantasy. Logia's abilities cannot even be completely replicated by technology. How to gain abilities? Is it possible to comprehend it out of thin air? Jialin Sheng was panicked at the moment, and didn't dare to face Yuan at all. That figure was the most terrifying demon in his heart. Yun, what do you want to do? Whatever you want, as long as the world government can give it to you, it's fine. Wealth status? Jialin Xing was so disheartened that he almost gave up resistance. He didn't know what to do to defeat Yun. If Yun didn't take action, they would definitely die here. Facing Yuan, how can we resist? I have no interest in what you say, nor in your world government. Yuan looked up and saw that the black spot in the distance was rapidly enlarging and revealing its traces. The 5 elders are arriving soon. This time. It's all body. What do you want? Jialin Xing asked subconsciously. He didn't understand what Yun was after. Master the world and leave it. Yuan's eyes were stern as he spoke faintly. Master the world. Leaving the world. Everyone murmured about the meaning of these 2 sentences, but could not understand them. Master the world. Become the king of the world? Jialin Sheng showed a look of doubt, but became even more confused after getting the answer. Leave the world? Is he going to die? Luffy understood it very simply. Nami twitched her lips. Idiot, how could a guy like that die? Huh? What does he mean? Luffy was puzzled. Luo looked at Yun's figure helplessly. Kid also looked confused and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. They were suddenly confused and felt powerless. Suddenly, the ground was overturned by the plants, and then the figure of Admiral Green Bull appeared on the field. He should have arrived earlier than the main force, but for some reason he was so late. Fleet Admiral! What are you doing? Didn't you hear what Vegapunk said? Why didn't you stop him? The Green Bull Aramaki showed up, looking at the weird atmosphere, but questioned Akainu in confusion. Vegapunk! This moment, world government and marine just remembered Vegapunk. I was so immersed in the shock brought by Yun that I had no mood to care about Vegapunk. What did Vegapunk say? Galanxing asked hurriedly. Green Bull's face flashed with confusion, and he seemed very puzzled, but he still said solemnly, Vegapunk has revealed the secret of the world. Ancient weapons are the culprits that destroyed the world. Using ancient weapons will cause the sea level to rise and eventually swallow up the continent. Let the whole world become an ocean. Call on everyone to rise up and destroy Uranus hidden in Marihoa. Damn bastard! Why is he coming out to cause trouble at this time? Galanxing was about to collapse. One Yun is enough to make people despair. Vegapunk was stabbed at this time. What should I do? The whole world has already known the news, and the scene we are in now should be being broadcast live to the whole world. Green Bull said, scratching his head. What? Everyone was shocked. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but look for Vegapunk. Vegapunk has finished revealing the world's secrets. However, the scene just now was too intense, so no one paid attention to him. But now the world is in chaos. Vegapunk! You bastard! Cyborg Sora shouted angrily after seeing Vegapunk's figure. But suddenly he was startled. He saw a familiar shadow beside Vegapunk. Shadow Rocks is controlling the broadcast Den Mushi. Shadow Rocks! He still exists? Garp screamed. How come Rox's shadow has survived for the past 40 years? This is so weird. Vegapunk spread his hands, looking helpless, as if silently saying, it has nothing to do with me now. He was also shocked by the ability that Yuan had just demonstrated, and even had an urge to study Yuan. But he didn't dare say it. Jan's eyes narrowed slightly. So, now it's Yun who wants the world to see what's happening in Future Island. What is his purpose in doing this? Just at this moment. Another strong man is coming! Zoro suddenly looked up at the sky. The people around felt something and looked up. The black flame cloud in the sky and the figure flapping huge wings were approaching rapidly. In the blink of an eye, we were in the air above Future Island. Kasayun! You can't be afraid of it. This time, Future Island is your grave. On the back of Izuna Tenma, who had transformed into a mythical beast demon, stood the other 4 or 5 elders. When they arrived, they jumped from the air at the same time. And the transformation is complete. 5 demonic figures pounced on Yuan at the same time. Galanxing was stunned for a moment. No, when did you become so brave? Lord Yim is not coming. To attack Yuan is to seek death. But it was too late for him to stop it. A true hero never listens to advice. 5 elders face Yuan. The Blackbird pirates are on their way. They had already seen Yun demonstrate his abilities in the footage just now. Blackbeard didn't realize the seriousness of the matter. After the shock, greed arises. If I can master Yun's abilities, then I can also master those devil fruit abilities. Think of this. Blackbeard suddenly felt that the power of the tremor fruit was not so effective anymore. Listen carefully. The target is this Kasayun. No matter what his ability is, Laozi must have it. Ha ha! As long as Laozi can master more devil fruit abilities, no one can stop Laozi from getting the great treasure. The world is flooded by the sea. Laozi doesn't care. Blackbeard looked at the outline of Future Island and laughed arrogantly. He felt like he was back in the war. When the battle is over, I suddenly take action. The summit battle successfully obtained the tremor fruit. This time, it can also plunder Kasayun's abilities. Blackbeard is a complete madman who is determined to fulfill his ambitions. Moreover, the scene of confrontation on Future Island easily makes people feel that both sides will suffer losses. Almost all the top warriors in the ocean have gathered here. The rest are on their way. Akiji's face was gloomy, and it was hard to tell what he was thinking. The Red Hair Pirates and the Giant Soldier Pirates have joined together and are about to arrive at Future Island. In such a grand occasion, how could Red Hair not take action? Everyone knows that the war on Future Island will determine the world situation. Whether it's the victory of the world government or the victory of the pirates, the world will change. Who can get the most benefit from it will be crucial. The elite of the Revolutionary Army, led by Dragon, is also heading to Future Island. The gathering of high-ranking officials of the world government gave Long an opportunity. If they are eradicated, the world government will be severely damaged, which will be of great benefit to the Revolutionary Army's future operations. In fact, a better action would be to take advantage of Marihoa's emptiness and attack the world government headquarters. Unfortunately, the Revolutionary Army was unable to mobilize enough manpower in such a short period of time. So Long led the top leaders to attack the head of the world government. Especially since they have secret dealings with Vegapunk, if they can use the power of Vegapunk, the Revolutionary Army's future actions will be smoother. The storm on Future Island will be even more violent. 5 figures in the sky fell like meteorites and hit Yuan. Wrapped in clouds of flames and spewing flames from its beak, Jin Tianjin screamed endlessly, like the howling of countless vengeful spirits, which was creepy. Its breath was stirring and clanging, and the strong wind was dancing under its iron-like wings. Peter Saint's body stretched out and became huge, his face gradually disappeared, and turned into a hideous and terrifying big mouth. The sandworm form was activated, and it was surrounded by flames. It looked hideous and terrifying. The holy Fang of Vachli was revealed, and besides flames and water vapor were floating around him. He transformed into Fingxi, and his huge body was filled with explosive power, blasting down. The lower half of Nashalangxing's body turned into white bones, revealing a chilling feeling, while the upper half of his body was in human form, holding a magic sword, with a sharp sword aura and a look full of murderous intent. A huge horn grew out of Satan's head, and he transformed into the mythical beast Gyuki. He stared at Yuan with fierce eyes, wishing he could kill him with a headbutt. The 5 elders are coming. At the same time, they transform into phantom beasts. Are those guys all awakened mythical beasts? Luo's heart skipped a beat. The fighting power of the world government is so terrifying. Have the legendary 5 elders shown up? Robin murmured in disbelief. They are so aggressive, but it seems to be useless, Sanji said thoughtfully. The Knights of God, Garp, and Sengoku, who were just frightened by Yoon, dare not act rashly. Will the 5 elders be Yoon's opponent? What a powerful enemy! Luffy clenched his fists, feeling an inexplicable sense of crisis in his heart. The power of marine and world government is far beyond expectations. 5 elders? Vegapunk's eyes widened. He didn't expect to see all the 5 elders appear. This is really going to change. But now he has no regrets in death. But he doesn't know why Yun wants to continue the live broadcast to the world. Stop it! Don't mess around! That's really Kasa Yun! Jialinxin came to his senses and roared towards the sky. In his opinion, the actions of the 5 elders were seeking death. How can you let Vegapunk reveal the secrets of the world? Everyone must be killed here. Lord Yim is coming! Kasa Yun! You can't get away! The voices of the 5 elders echoed in the air. Although they did not see Vegapunk's live broadcast, they received reports from the world government through Den Den Mushi while on the road, and were now filled with anger towards Vegapunk. And Yim is their greatest confidence. They want to consume Yun's power. As long as we can hold on until him arrives, victory is assured. So as soon as they showed up, they attacked Yuan with all their strength to prevent any accident from causing Yuan to escape again. Little did they know that they had made a complete mistake in their calculations. The aura in the bodies of Golden Lion Shiki, Charlotte, Big Mom, and Kaido gradually became stronger, like a surging wave that became more and more shocking. But Yuan didn't look nervous at all. He raised his head slightly and looked towards the sky. 5 demonic figures were rushing towards him madly, their speed comparable to that of a falling meteorite, causing the wind to whistle. If it's the real body, then it can die. Yuan's eyes were indifferent, and he spoke softly for no reason. The sound is very soft. But it is an imperial decree. Buzz. Suddenly, a strange energy wave spread out, causing everyone to subconsciously turn their heads to look. Countless shadows retreated, revealing the giant steel beast underneath. That's Pluton? Cyborg's eyelids trembled violently, and his heart sank to the bottom of the valley again. Who would have thought that Yuan had Pluton in his hands? When they arrived, Pluton was shrouded in shadow and did not reveal his face. But now the shadows have receded like the tide, revealing the face of Pluton. Even though everyone has never seen Pluton, they can still get some mysterious thoughts from the terrifying fluctuations that make people's hearts tremble. Where did Yuan get Pluton? He can actually use ancient weapon. Zhan's eyes were dull and his mind was paralyzed. Unexpectedly, Yuan also holds the ancient weapon. And now he's going to use Pluton. Thinking of this, Zhan's face turned a little paler. The 5 elders were all in the air. Isn't this like a sitting duck? Click, click. The energy inside the steel behemoth was running, and a mechanical roaring noise could be heard. Energy beams visible to the naked eye are slowly condensing in the black hole-like opening, as if fusing countless energy particles, flashing bright and dazzling light. However, a frightening wave of destruction spread at the same time. Pluton. Start up. Pluton start. This scene really stunned everyone. Yuan actually used Pluton directly? It's just crazy. Yuan! You can't use the ancient weapon. It will exacerbate the rise in sea levels and the world will be destroyed. Vegapunk was stunned and shouted hurriedly, trying to stop Yuan's actions. But who can stop Yuan's idea? Pluton gathers power, and the cold light blooms. A portion of the power of the Mother Fire, plus the power of shadow that Yuan integrated into it, formed an extremely shocking and destructive impact. Buzz. The energy spread and the space trembled slightly. The 5 elders in the sky were even more dumbfounded. The moment they were locked onto the target, they were filled with horror. He actually has Pluton in his hands? Damn it! He really came for the Mother Fire. How come he can activate Pluton so quickly? The voices of the 5 elders were all filled with panic. They had no choice but to stop, control their huge bodies to change direction in the air, and flee in different directions. As for resistance? Stop kidding! To resist the attack of ancient weapon is to seek death. But their reactions were fast. Pluton's attacks were even faster. Boom! Endless beams of energy blasted out from Pluton's black hole. The world is dead silent. All sounds seem to be silenced. Only the dazzling beam of light penetrates everything. Even more terrifying than Charlotte's unique sword. The only thing in everyone's sight was the energy beam that pierced the sky. Temporary hearing loss in both ears. Jialinxing and the others all had terrified looks in their eyes, and their feet were somewhat unsteady. The waves were surging and rolling, and the large forces of the world government and the Marines could not get close to the coast at all. Many ships were even submerged in the rough sea. It was a scene of doomsday, but it was also somewhat gorgeous. Yun's clothes fluttered, but his body remained motionless. He looked at Pluton's attack with a satisfied smile. It's worthy of being called ancient weapon. Even I can't block this kind of attack. Kaido roared. But I could only see his lips opening and closing, but couldn't hear any sound. It's so fucking exciting! Shiki the Golden Lion laughed, but his laughter was equally inexpressible. It was as if it was muted. All sound was drowned out by the storm of Pluton's attack. The 5 elders were all dumbfounded. The frantically fleeing figure was instantly submerged in the impact beam of Pluton's attack. Everything is fading and dissipating. Perhaps the screams were very shrill, but the people below could not hear them. The beam impact lasted for a full half-minute. The steel on the giant steel beast is like a red-hot iron. If it continues to attack, it will probably turn into molten iron. Buzz. Energy dissipates. Under the control of Yun's shadow, Pluton's attack waves slowly disappeared. Brush. The beams of light in the sky disappeared and vanished into thin air. But the sky in the distance seemed to be pierced through, and an extremely dark black hole appeared. This destructive attack is falling from the sky. Wherever it lands on, that island will completely disappear. Just like the Canyon of Gods back then. The deafening storm gradually subsided. The people whose eardrums were vibrating and stinging gradually heard other sounds. Where are the 5 elders? Jialan Sheng's arm trembled, and the weapon almost slipped out of his hand and fell to the ground. He roared in anger. The storm in the sky dissipated, and everything became clear. Where are the demonic figures of the 5 elders? It was so clean that it was as if they had never been there. 5 elders, they. Cyborg looked dazed, muttering in disbelief. The 5 elders disappeared. Or rather, dead. The 5 elders, who held the highest power in the world, were killed by Pluton. Stop talking about corpses. Not even any ashes were left. This scene was a complete shadow to Cyborg and the others. What if the target just now was them? This is the power of ancient weapon! Janhua was terrified. He felt a sense of relief for surviving a disaster, but also a deep fear. Frankie was shaking with excitement, clenching his fists and shouting, Pluton! This is ancient weapon Pluton! He had the Pluton blueprints, but had no chance to build one. In other words, there are simply no conditions or time. But now that he has seen the power of Pluton, he is already very excited. How terrifying! Luffy looked at the black hole that had not dissipated for a long time with a shocked expression. This is a force that humans can never contend with. Even the 4 emperors will be wiped out in one blow, Zoro said solemnly. Sanji was shocked. Who would have thought that the 5 elders who controlled the world government would die like this? The 5 elders appeared, looking aggressive and extremely fierce. But killed instantly by Pluton. The contrast between before and after is really hard to describe. It's so scary. If he had aimed at us, we wouldn't even be able to see any bones left. Nami's face turned pale, and she said tremblingly, Is this a battle that we can really get involved in? Luo began to doubt himself. The kid lay on the ground, not doubting at all. Because he was sure that he could not participate in this battle. The bloody lessons are the most memorable. The 5 elders died just like that. Absurd. Shocked again. The people of world government are completely numb. If he uses Pluton to attack Mary Geos, the consequences will be disastrous. Jialan Xing's eyes suddenly condensed, and he couldn't help but think of the worst outcome in his mind. Everyone! Destroy the Pluton battleship with all your strength. The energy just now has dissipated, and Pluton cannot be used for a short period of time. At all costs. We must not let Pluton start again. Jialan Xing's eyes were red, he was completely crazy, and he issued orders regardless of the consequences. The Knights of God were startled and realized the seriousness of the matter. If Pluton is targeting Marihoa, can him activate Uranus to intercept the attack in such a short time? But we are no match for him. A member of the Knights of God whispered. Even if I die, I will die together with Pluton, said Jialan Xing, gritting his teeth. The threat posed by the ancient weapon is too terrifying. Uranus can be said to be the trump card in Yim's hand. With Uranus, you are invincible. But if Yim controls Pluton, there is a danger of destroying the celestial dragons, which is even more terrifying than Yun's personal strength. They were clearly more afraid of Pluton. Little did they know that Yun had 2 Plutons in his hands. Nu! The Knights of God responded. Next second, led by Jialan Xing, everyone ignored the shock in their hearts and burst out with strength to rush towards the huge steel beast floating in the sky. At the same time, Mary Geo's sim was agitated and transformed into an indescribable monster. Kasa Yun! You all, go to hell! The hoarse, deep evil voice sounded like the devil's muttering, yet it was filled with unprecedented madness. Uranus start. Target, Future Island. Yim actually wanted everyone to die there. God's Knight's action. Marine! Get moving! Cyborg shouted. At the same time, the combat orders of the Seraphim were issued. 7 huge figures appeared, with familiar faces but exceptionally sturdy bodies. Huh! These guys Hancock? Luffy's eyes suddenly widened, looking even more surprised. There's also Jinbei? It looks like Jinbei from his childhood. Usopp also noticed this situation and was very surprised. What's wrong with them? Nami was confused. It should be a clone created by Vegapunk. Everyone be careful, Jinbei said in a serious tone. Just as he came back to his senses from the shock of Pluton, he saw his own clone. Oh la la la, do you think Laozi doesn't exist? Jean! Stop them for Laozi! Kaido strode out and shouted recklessly. Behind him, the three calamities and the Flying Six rushed out and charged towards the Knights of God and the Marines. Katakuri, Cracker! The ant also shouted in a low voice and rushed out first. Seeing this, Shiki the Golden Lion said helplessly to Yuan, Are you not going to do it yourself? Yuan glanced at Charlotte, who was rushing in the front, and waved his hand. You guys come on! He was just about to summon the Shadow Legion. But Kaido and Big Mom have already led their subordinates to fight, so let them do it. Well, Laozi has definitely killed more people than those two bastards Kaido and Lin Lin. Shiki the Golden Lion took a deep puff of his cigar and exhaled a puff of smoke. Before the smoke cleared, his figure had already disappeared. A melee broke out again. The scene became chaotic again. At this moment, another force arrived. Cross Guild. They suddenly appeared in Future Island. Even faster than the Red Hair Pirates and Blackbeard Pirates. Buggy, Hawkeye, and Crocodile land on Future Island. Their appearance surprised everyone. Red Nose and Sand Crocodile? They are here too? Are they here to help Marine? Luffy was the first to notice their figures. How is that possible? Shichibukai has been expelled from the world government. Why would they still help Marine and the world government? Maybe they are here for revenge. Nami analyzed. Zoro's eyes darkened. He's coming! He gripped the knife handle tightly, staring at the man carrying the black knife, with a strong desire to attack. But after seeing Charlotte's sword just now, Zoro was not so sure about Hawkeye's title as the world's #1 swordsman. Hawkeye? Crocodile? Buggy? Why are they here? When Garanshin fought with Kaido, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he felt inexplicably surprised. Hawkeye is walking towards Yuan. Could it be that he is going to attack Yuan? Zhang eyes lit up. If Hawkeye and his Cross Guild take action, they will have a better chance of destroying Pluton. At least for now, it seems that Yuan has no intention of taking action. Whether there are some concerns or other reasons, at least in the eyes of the warring states, they are all opportunities for the world government. They are here! Green Bull narrowed his eyes, his gaze flashing with murderous intent. The reason why he arrived so late was that he encountered the Cross Guild on the way and the two sides fought for a long time. In the end, it was Green Bull who managed to escape and get rid of them. But I didn't expect Hawkeye and the others to chase them to the Future Island. Hey! Hawkeye, what are you doing? Didn't you see the horror of that man just now? Don't mess with him! Buggy looked at Hawkeye, yelling and screaming, his limbs flying, and he was very upset. What on earth is my hawk going to do? Crocodile asked, puffing on his cigar and narrowing his eyes. Something was wrong with Hawkeye from the beginning. It was as if the target was that man. Looking at the chaotic battlefield, Crocodile finally looked at Luffy. Straw Hat Luffy, it's been a long time. He didn't expect Luffy to grow so fast. How come you are here? Robin walked forward and spoke in a nostalgic tone. The relationship between Crocodile and Luffy has eased a lot after the Battle of Marineford, and they don't seem like enemies anymore. My hawk is coming. Crocodile nodded in the direction of Hawkeye, without retracting his gaze, and followed Hawkeye's movements. What is he going to do? Jinbei whispered in surprise. After Hawkeye landed, no one else looked at him and went straight to Yuan. This somewhat strange scene aroused everyone's curiosity. Is he going to challenge that man for the position of the world's #1 swordsman? Zoro suddenly had a guess in his mind. Since Un is Charlotte's father, wouldn't his sword skills be even more terrifying? Even Garanshin, Cyborg, Sengoku, Akainu and others couldn't help but pay attention to Hawkeye's actions, and some even had an attitude of watching the show. Kizaru transforms into a yellow flash and rushes straight towards Pluton, but his opponent is the user of the Thunder Fruit. Thunder nets fill the sky. Enel's movement speed in the lightning is like teleportation, no slower than Kizaru. He entangled Kizaru tightly and was unable to free his hands for the time being. "Dad!" When Charlotte saw someone walking towards Yuan, she shouted and wanted to kill him back. However, he was entangled by Cyborg and Garp and could not escape. "What does that Hawkeye guy mean?" A cold light flashed in the eyes of the Golden Lion Shiki. He didn't think Hawkeye could threaten Yuan, but if Yuan were to take action like this, wouldn't it make them seem useless? But his opponent was also holding him back, and he couldn't come back to help. Everyone is watching Hawkeye's every move. Yuan turned his head slightly and looked at the world's #1 swordsman walking towards him step by step without making any move. That little kid has grown up. I feel a little emotional. As Hawkeye approached Yuan, excitement flowed in his eyes. Amid all the shocked gazes, he stood beside Yuan. He bowed respectfully and spoke in a suppressed and excited voice. "Teacher! I finally see you again!" "Wow!" Everyone was shocked. "Teacher!" Hawkeye's teacher turned out to be Yuan. Everyone was stunned at this moment. Buggy staggered backwards, and if his body had not been broken into pieces, he would have fallen to the ground. He was so confused that he shouted, "What the hell? That man is actually Mihawk's teacher?" Crocodile's expression was stunned. "Is this the reason?" He felt that Hawkeye was in a bad mood all the way, as if he was very anxious. Never expected it anyway. Hawkeye is actually looking for his teacher. And his teacher is still that mysterious man. This is too unbelievable. What? That guy is actually related to Hawkeye? Luffy widened his eyes. Even he felt that this was too outrageous. "Teacher, that man is related to Hawkeye." Zoro's mouth twitched, and an unspeakable emotion filled his heart. "What? Un is actually Hawkeye's teacher? What on earth is going on?" Jilansheng, Zhang Gua and others were stunned for a moment. I was originally looking forward to a good show, but the result was so outrageous. Hawkeye's swordsmanship was taught by Yun. When did they meet? Hawkeye never mentioned it. Hawkeye is known as the world's #1 swordsman. No matter what, he is still the world's #1. But when he saw Yuan, he was still respectful. Full of awe. "Teacher, long time no see, how are you? I have worked very hard over the years, but I still cannot live up to your teachings." Hawkeye said this carefully, fearing that remark would upset Yuan. Buggy and Crocodile are both numb. They have been in contact with Hawkeye for such a long time, and it turns out that such an arrogant and cold guy has such a gentle side. The contrast between the two made them want to find a piece of tofu and kill themselves. Is this still the Hawkeye they know? Zoro's mouth twitched even more. Hawkeye's image in his mind was severely damaged. On the contrary, Yun became more mysterious. Teach the world's best swordsman. And there's a monster, Charlotte. Then how terrifying must his swordsmanship be? Zoro's eyes fell on the path of reincarnation, on Yun's waist, and his breathing suddenly stopped. Just when he was about to challenge Yun, he suddenly felt an unprecedented palpitation. That wave comes from path of reincarnation. What kind of knife is this? Zoro was confused. This feeling, is that really a knife? The 12 skills of the Supreme Great Sword no longer include path of reincarnation. No one knows how terrifying the Wheel of Reincarnation, created by Yuan is. At least, Blue Devil was just a semi-successful experiment of Yuan. Stand up, you are the best swordsman in the world, pay attention to your image. Yuan waved his hand helplessly. The power of shadow holds up Hawkeye. This is what I should do in front of my teacher. Hawkeye said respectfully, without any airs of being the world's best swordsman. The main reason is that he was driven away that year. Hawkeye was only afraid that Yuan would not acknowledge him as his disciple, and he had no complaints at all. The teacher taught me everything I should have taught, but I failed to meet the teacher's requirements. You've done well. It seems that you have not wasted these years and have realized your own ultimate slash? Yuen asked calmly, like a teacher examining homework. Hawkeye was nervous and excited. What Yuen said was a recognition of his status as a disciple. But what made him ashamed was that he still had not realized the ultimate slash in his own swordsmanship. Unable to infuse my swordsmanship with my own will. Teacher. Hawkeye lowered his head, looking ashamed. Depend on. Buggy's eyes split apart, and he stared to the limit, and his eyeballs popped out. Is this really the Hawkeye he knows? This is simply a nightmare. The cold and taciturn Hawkeye actually has such a side to him. It's so frustrating. Ahem. Crocodile choked on his cigar. The familiar Hawkeye will never come back. Such a docile Hawkeye seems to have been tamed, which is really shocking. My Hawk! When did you get in touch with Yun? You actually kept this a secret from the world government. Cyborg roared in frustration. Hawkeye was previously a Shichibukai, and belonged to the world government. They knew about Yun's existence and even knew that Yun was still alive, but they didn't tell the world government. What on earth has Yun done all these years? John was suddenly felt a little frightened. The world government and Marine have no idea what Yun has been doing during the years he disappeared. Even the world's #1 swordsman quietly became Yun's disciple. Did he train other strong men? John Guo was shocked and full of fear. In fact, he didn't know that his fear was completely unnecessary. Yun did want to train some strong men at the beginning. But after training Hawkeye, he found that even Hawkeye could not meet his requirements, so he lost interest in training others. Charlotte is a special case. Hawkeye's eagle-like eyes suddenly shrank, becoming extremely sharp, and his whole body was filled with sword energy. He turned his head and looked at Cyborg. Murderous intent was like the sea. This guy calls the teacher loudly. Are you looking for death? When facing others, Hawkeye transforms into that arrogant and cold swordsman. The contrast between before and after is extremely strong. This further highlights his awe of Yun. Teacher, I will kill him. Hawkeye asked for help from Yun. Yun glanced at the battlefield and ordered. Go and deal with your clone. Fully release the sword in your heart, release it without reservation, integrate the ultimate idea into the sword, pursue the limit, but you must remember that the limit that can be broken is never the limit. He still didn't give up Hawkeye completely, and gave him a few specific pointers. But this sentence seems a bit contradictory. Hawkeye at that time could not comprehend this level at all. If he still can't understand it now, then there is nothing Yun can do. When Hawkeye heard what Yun said, the sword intent in his body instantly soared into the sky and tore through the clouds. Although it is just a simple reminder, it has a different meaning for Hawkeye. Proves that Yun approves of him. Yes. Teacher! Hawkeye waved his hand suddenly, and the black knife appeared in his hand. The figure was galloping. As the words fell, he had appeared in front of Seraphim Hawkeye and blasted him away with one blow. Hawkeye knew clearly that this was the opponent chosen by Yun for him to hone his sword skills. Nothing is more important than surpassing yourself. Although Seraph is a clone, his strength should not be underestimated. The Seraph Hawkeye flew out, then immediately steadied his body, streaked through the air, and killed towards Hawkeye like a stream of light. His arms even turned directly into sharp blades. The ability of the Zhanzhan fruit. Hawkeye battles his own clones. The other side. Looking at this sudden scene, Buggy and Crocodile were a little stunned. The fight is about to start? Buggy was stunned for a moment, then came back to his senses. Looks like we have to join the war too. Crocodile took a deep breath, then exhaled a circle of smoke and stared at his clone. Damn world government, they actually made a replica of Laozi. Your replica, my Hawk's replica, Jinbei, Doflamingo, Hancock, Mariah. Damn it, Laozi also did Shichibukai, why is there no Laozis? Buggy jumped up with a red nose. You! Crocodile glanced at him and didn't want to speak. Ahem! Buggy covered up his embarrassment and said. So we have to take action against the world government and Marine as well? Of course. The prices of these guys' heads are clearly marked. Crocodile said this, and suddenly turned into a stream of quicksand and rushed out. Join the battlefield. Since Hawkeye has taken action, Crocodile naturally doesn't want to sit idle. In that case, let's have a big fight. Etc. Buggy was so angry that he jumped up and down. You bastards, you guys don't listen to Lousy's orders. Buggy jumped up and yelled. It's strange. The world governance ships could not get close to the island in the storm. Green Bull rushed to the island entirely relying on his own strength. On the contrary, Buggy's pirate group actually reached the shore in the wind and waves. And just at this moment, an unexpected incident occurred on the field. A member of the Knights of God actually lurked behind Yun. Kasa Yun! Go to hell! He actually wanted to sneak attack Yun. I even naively thought that I could kill Yun by surprise. But before he could attack Yun, a figure surrounded by blue flames flew out and kicked him away. Phoenix Marco takes action. Marco's arms transformed into dancing phoenix wings, and he stared coldly at the attacker. He has a clear assessment of the situation. It becomes more clear that Yun has unfathomable strength. Once this guy makes a move, I'm afraid that all the people combined won't be enough for him to kill. So Marco will naturally choose Yun between world government and Yun. Certainly. The most important point. It was Marco who wanted to save the lives of Luffy and others. Phoenix Marco? It seems you are tired of living. The face of the Knights of God who failed in the sneak attack suddenly darkened. He stared coldly at Marco, his eyes filled with murderous hatred. He was still confident that the sneak attack just now could cause damage to Yun. Little did they know. Marco could react. How could you not notice? Marco! Are you planning to intervene as well? Do you really think Marine won't clean up your last territory? Jangwa shouted, threatening Marco. Marco didn't care at all, and the smile on his face became increasingly presumptuous. If I'm not mistaken, this is a war between the world government and pirates. Since we are all pirates, why not make this battle more chaotic? Luffy! Don't just sit there, do something you need to do. Only by defeating these guys can we get out of here. Marco turned around and shouted at Luffy. He wants Luffy to lead everyone to fight against the world government and Marine. In this way, it can be considered as standing on the side of Yun's camp. Maybe Yun would let them go. Ah? We are going to help this guy and the four emperors. Luffy looked up, very surprised. We are not helping them. Marco was speechless upon hearing this, and immediately explained. This is a battle between pirates and the world government. Don't you have any awareness of being pirates? You can only talk about your grudges with Kaido and Big Mom after you leave here. Marco is a little tired. The door is open to you, but you still don't know how to come in. Really let Lousy make it clear? Master Straw Hat, it would be a pity to miss such an exciting battle. Looking at Marco's slightly anxious expression, Law showed a thoughtful look and began to persuade him. Then should I attack Grandpa? Luffy tilted his head and glanced at Garp. He actually wants to fight Kaido again. #2YL=. Or fighting the boy who fought Garp. You can beat up the others. Marco growled. As soon as he finished speaking, members of the Knights of God rushed to his side in an instant, and with a domineering blow, they slammed the distracted Marco into the ground. Wow! The azure flames spread out again. Even in the form of a phoenix, there was a trace of blood on Marco's mouth. I was really careless just now. The current overwhelms my shoulders. Jinbei helped Marco without hesitation. Luffy, trust Marco! Jinbei stood up at this time, and he understood what Marco meant. The rest of the people also reacted to varying degrees. Everyone! It seems that we can only set sail again if we resolve the current battle. Then let's have a big fight. Whether it's the Marine or the Four Emperors, I will definitely beat them to the ground. Luffy punched with both fists, his eyes gradually becoming firm. He does have some of the captain's demeanor. It seems that it is not the time to challenge Hawkeye. Zoro smiled evilly and slowly tied his headscarf. In the battle between the strong men before us, we must use all our strength when we attack. Even for ourselves, we can't avoid the battle. Sanji took a puff of cigarette and said slowly. Senior Yuan, we will do our best to protect Pluton, Luo said respectfully to Yuan. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and immediately took the opportunity to ease the relationship between himself and Yuan. Marco breathed a sigh of relief, and the smile on his face froze as soon as it appeared. He looked at Yuan's half-smile and smiled awkwardly. All his thoughts were seen by Yuan. But Yuan didn't care. Instead, he found the battle more and more interesting. Then one head in exchange for one life. Yuan smiled faintly and suddenly snapped his fingers. Brush. A strange energy enveloped Luffy and his crew, and the healing power directly healed their injuries, and even Luffy's physical strength returned to its peak. Even Kid recovered. What a magical power! Usopp couldn't help but exclaim in amazement even though it was the second time he felt it. Senior means the heads of the world government, and the Marine in exchange for our own lives. Kira, what are you still standing there for? Get started! Kid stood up and obeyed orders. With that lesson, his awe of Yun reached its peak. He didn't dare to provoke Yun at all, and directly called Kira to kill the strong men of the world government and Marine. Why does this feel so weird? It's like we've become his thugs. Luffy frowned. Luffy, he can heal everyone in an instant, and he can also kill everyone in an instant. Now is not the time to fight for pride. The most important thing is to stay alive, Nami advised directly. She was really scared. Even if I can't kill everyone instantly, I'm afraid most of them will die. So annoying! Fourth gear. Luffy directly activated Gear 4 and joined the battlefield. Room! Luo directly used his ability to transfer him and everyone else to the front of Pluton, just in time to block the world government and Marine strongmen who were rushing over. Although Kaido and Big Mom both led their subordinates to attack, their numbers were still too small. The Knights of God, Cyborg, Garp, Sengoku, Akainu, Kizaru, Green Bull, Fujitora, and the Seven Seraphim. Hawkeye and Crocodile joined the battlefield, and Kaido and Big Mom were also at a numerical disadvantage. What's more, the three disasters and the three generals are still somewhat inferior to this group of top powerhouses. If Yun hadn't killed the five elders instantly, Golden Lion, Kaido and others would have been under even greater pressure. At that time, Yun had to take action. But now, Luffy, Law, Kid and the people from Wano country joined the battle and turned the numerical disadvantage around. But it made the battlefield even more chaotic. Shadow Rocks did not make a move from beginning to end. He held the Den Den Mushi and broadcast the current scene of Future Island to the whole world. Everyone in the world saw Yun and left an indelible impression on them. They felt an inexplicable awe for Yun. The power of shadow spreads throughout the world. The Emperor's will eventually cover the world. An even more terrifying power slowly awakened within Yun's body. Deep in the ocean currents gathered and flowed faster and faster. A destructive storm formed from the depths of the ocean and slowly spread to the entire ocean. Luffy's enemy is Akainu. The punch that pierced Ace's chest. This once again ignited the anger in Luffy's heart. Luffy was reluctant at first. But Akainu took the initiative to attack him, as if he still treated him as the young kid he had just started. The magma flowed, and the fireball condensed from the molten lava exploded. Luffy's fist popped out and rushed towards Akainu at high speed. The battle became extremely intense as soon as it began. Luffy actually joined the battle! Garp suddenly felt extremely tired. His grandson once again stood against him, but he still had nothing to say. Because Luffy's opponent is the murderer who killed Ace. It seemed like a continuation of the war at the top, and no one else could intervene. This is your wonderful grandson! Cyborg scolded. I will stop him! You go ahead and find a way to destroy Pluton. Shao He is commanding the ships to approach the shore soon. When the army approaches, they will have no chance to resist. Cyborg immediately gave Garp combat orders. The two of them are now teaming up to take on Charlotte. Cyborg gritted his teeth and decided to delay Charlotte by himself while letting Garp go to support the others. After Luffy, Law, Kid and their pirate group joined the battle, it became even more difficult to deal with. Akainu wants to kill Luffy. Kizaru and the user of the Thunder Fruit are entangled with each other. Zoro, who just escaped, finds Fujitora. Hawkeye and Crocodile face off against their own Seraph. Garen Saint was fighting with the Golden Lion. Kaido and Big Mom led the three Calamities and the three generals to intercept the Knights of God, but a few people still broke through, and the one who just ambushed Yuan was one of them. But at this time they were stopped by Luo, Kid and others. Jinbei attacks the member of the Magic Knights. Marco stopped Sengoku. It is definitely a spectacular melee that is rarely seen in a century. Gengukan glanced at the situation and placed his hopes on the large army behind him. They're coming ashore soon. I know! Garp breaks away from the battle and charges towards Pluton. I say, do you really think you are my opponent? Charlotte slashed with the sword, causing Gengukan to retreat repeatedly. Kid, if I can delay you, I won't have any problem. Cyborg immediately changed his tactics. He did not choose to fight Charlotte head-on, but tried to contain her as much as possible. Then there's nothing to say. Dad once said, it's hard to persuade a damned ghost with kind words. Charlotte grinned, her eyes swept across the battlefield, and she slowly approached Hawkeye's direction. Since you are my father's disciple, then just help him yourself. Charlotte's talent is more terrifying than Hawkeye's, not only in kendo, but also in taijutsu and domineering. He is like rocks back then, a natural-born king of this world. But their fates were changed because of Yuan. Marco! Damn you! Zhangguo looked at Marco, who was blocking his way, his eyes filled with anger. Warring States! The account of the war at the top can finally be settled. Marco's suppressed voice sounded, and it was actually a little crazy. Speaking of the enemies of the Whitebeard pirates. Of course Blackbeard is number one. But the second one is Akainu and Sengoku from Marine. The two of them are worthy of being ranked together. Although in Marineford, Akainu is the Marine MVP and the main C. But everything originated from the planning of the Warring States period. Akainu to Luffy. I will seek revenge on the Warring States. In order to maintain Whitebeard's last home over the years, Marco almost forgot his identity as a pirate. When Yuan saw this scene, he was filled with emotion. At that time, Zhangguo almost killed him, and he almost killed Zhangguo too. But now, Zhangguo is no longer worthy of taking action himself. However, given Marco's strength, it might be difficult to defeat the Warring States. Thinking about it, Yuan's mind moved. Marco's shadow suddenly separated from his body and formed a three-dimensional form. Marco was slightly surprised, but immediately realized that it was Yuan's ability. When Zhangguo saw this scene, his pupils suddenly shrank. This is... Bad memories were brought back to his mind. In the first battle with Yuan relied on the shadows of Kaido and Big Mom to withstand his attacks. Another scene is when a seriously injured Rox directly merges with his own shadow and revives with full health. The past 40 years have still left a deep impression on the Warring States period. This scene now is so damn familiar. As expected, Zhangguo looked on in shock and speechlessness. The Shadow Phoenix suddenly merged into Marco's body. A perfect fusion with no gaps. Yun's power is far from what it was back then, and his fusion is already perfect. In a flash, Marco's momentum soared, the Phoenix's blue flame became brighter, and the temperature rose sharply. What a powerful force! Marco couldn't help but exclaim. He clearly felt that his strength had reached an unprecedented level, and even the ability of the Phoenix seemed to have changed. But this is not the end. A shadow gathered beside Yuan. Shadow Phoenix. This is the shadow formed by his own Phoenix ability. No way, come again! Zhangguo's eyes were dull for a moment, and the bad premonition in his heart became stronger. Whoosh! Shadow Phoenix rushed towards Marco. She actually merged with him again. This is an increase in ability without any side effects. Boom! Marco's aura swept out like an explosion. Azure flames erupted from his body, forming a terrifying sea of fire that surrounded him, releasing an extremely terrifying power. He completely transformed into the form of a phoenix, and his flaming body expanded by twice its size. The intense, scorching flames were even hotter than magma. The air around seemed to be burning. Cry! The phoenix sings to the sky. Just like a phoenix rising from the ashes, reborn. The bright, and even somewhat dazzling azure flame became more and more condensed, and the flaming feathers of the phoenix were extremely clear, as if a real mythical beast had descended. This moment, a flash of enlightenment came into Marco's mind. Outlined by the azure flames, a misty blue ribbon-like flame cloud formed behind him. The blue flame clouds and flames are intertwined, brilliant and bright, and extremely ethereal. The mythical beast Phoenix, awakening. Marco never imagined that he would be so powerful one day. The surging power flowed through his body, and it seemed that he could kill his previous self in one blow. The amplification of two phantom beast shadows directly let Marco reach the awakening form. As for the issue of the awakening will of the animal system, it had already been obliterated by Yuan. Marco now is the real Phoenix. The phantom beast is coming. Thank you, Senior. Marco did not forget to thank Yuan. But in his heart, he was more in awe of Yuan, and even felt that his choice was wise. Fortunately, Luffy and the others were temporarily pulled into Yuan's camp. Otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. How could human power be able to counter such a strange, terrifying and powerful ability? Marco suddenly thought of something even more shocking. You can be elevated like this. If Kaido, who is even more powerful, is amplified by two shadows, what will his power be? Phoenix! Marco awakens! The clear cry of the phoenix echoed throughout the island. Everyone looked stern, and couldn't help but look at the phoenix that was reborn from the fire. Another mythical beast has awakened! How on earth did they do it? Jialan Xing's eyes were gloomy, and he shouted angrily. All 5 elders died under Pluton's attack. The world government lost 5 great mythical beast awakeners and 5 top combatants. On the world government side, Kaku is the only animal awakened. Jialan Xing is well aware of the disadvantages of animal awakening. It is even more difficult to understand the successive awakenings of Kaido and Marco. Could it be that Yun has some other means to deal with the awakening of the animal-type devil fruit? Isn't this more powerful than Im's ability? Jialan Xing felt extremely tired. There is no way to fight this battle, they are just courting death. Yun hasn't taken action himself yet. Not even Shadow Rocks. Now there is an awakened phoenix, and the situation is even more disadvantageous. Destroying Pluton was the only thing Garen-san could find meaning in. Or kill Yun? Like that fool from the Knights of God just now. Jialan Xing knew very well in his heart that if Yuan really took action himself, they would all be killed before him arrived. He actually amplified the phoenix to the awakening state directly? What kind of power does he possess? Akainu gritted his teeth, his face full of murderous intent. As a Marine Fleet Admiral, he has no control over the situation. Just a momentary distraction. The rubber fist wrapped in domineering power smashed the magma and knocked Akainu back dozens of meters. That pineapple head guy has become so strong! Luffy couldn't help but sigh, as if he saw himself awakening the power of Gear 5th. Damn you, Straw Hat Boy! Go to hell! The dog devours the Red Lotus! Akainu was repelled by Luffy and became furious, and the magma suddenly became more turbulent. It transformed into a ferocious lava dog head, biting, roaring, and howling at Luffy. Luffy is fearless and punches back. It's getting worse and worse, Lord Im. Why don't you take action? Cyborg tried his best to restrain Charlotte, but was completely suppressed by Charlotte. Oh, ha ha ha! This guy Yun actually made Marco awaken as well? I haven't seen this move in years. Kaido laughed softly, enjoying himself. The Golden Lion slashed down with both swords, colliding with Jialan Xing, and chuckled. It's getting more and more interesting. Jialan Xing's eyes became increasingly gloomy. Shiki the Golden Lion was stronger than he expected. He didn't expect that Shiki's strength would increase instead of decrease as he got older. In a short period of time, it was impossible to tell who was winning or losing, or whether they were alive or dead. But the situation is not so good for others. Sengoku was completely numb as he watched Marco awaken in front of him. After Luffy and Kaido, another mythical beast awakened. And it's all based on Yun's power. How did Yun acquire the power of a devil fruit without taking it? This issue has always been a huge stone in Zhangguo's heart. And now is not the time to figure this out. The flames of the phoenix had spread, surrounding the golden body of the Zhangguo Buddha from all directions. The terrifying temperature caused the surrounding ground to gradually turn into scorched earth. The phoenix awakens, and great changes occur. In the past, when Marco fought, he relied more on the healing power of the phoenix flame, and his real attack power still came from physical skills. But now awake! Not only did his physical strength increase several times, but even the fire of the phoenix became a killing weapon. At least it can't be compared to the flame fruit. The most terrifying thing is, the immortality of the phoenix has been greatly enhanced. Unless it is a one-shot kill, Marco can heal almost all of his injuries. Bang bang. The golden Buddha stood firmly, raised his palms to the left and right, and a dazzling white light was brewing in his palms. The next moment. Shockwave explosion. Boom! 2 strong shock waves exploded and swept to both sides. It was like a hurricane, rolling up endless waves of fire. Even the phoenix flames in front of and behind him were pulled apart by the wind and waves, looking like they were sucked away by an exhaust fan, dissolving the surrounding sea of fire. Drink! The silhouette of a phoenix streaked across the sky. Marco's sharp claws stretched out from the flames and collided violently with the golden Buddha's palm that was attacking from Zhangguo. However, Marco did not retreat at all. His wings were surrounded by raging flames, and the azure blue color was shining violently. In an instant, 2 pillars of fire took shape, bombarded towards the big Buddha warring states. Boom! A loud roar broke out. The golden Buddha was submerged in the flames of the phoenix, surrounded by azure blue, but the temperature was terrifying. Warring states! Garp's expression suddenly changed, and he rushed through the crowd and rushed towards Marco. He also didn't expect that Yun could directly allow Marco to reach the awakened form. But it's too late to be shocked now. He hurried to rescue Zhangguo. Electromagnetic gun! Crunch time! The brave man stood up. Kid had just fully recovered from his injuries and strength. He was originally trying to intercept the strong men of the world government from approaching Pluton, but when he saw Garp was going to support Sengoku, he immediately rushed up and shot him dead with one shot. Hiss, boom! Garp moved quickly to avoid the electromagnetic cannon, and suddenly turned his eyes to Kid with a strong sense of oppression. Garp! I'm not too old to move! Amidst the bright azure flames, the suppressed voice of Zhangguo was heard. Boom! The breath exploded and lightning flashed. The big Buddha Zhangguo broke free from the raging flames, suddenly jumped out, and slapped Marco with one palm. The golden Buddha is wrapped with Conqueror's domineering aura, flowing through his arms, condensing in his palms, and perfectly blending with the shock wave. He brazenly blasted a domineering shock wave at Marco. The phoenix's eyes narrowed, and a strong sense of crisis arose. Marco didn't dare to be careless. Unleash the immortal fire with all your strength. The flames suddenly shot up into the sky, like a blue beam of light, piercing through the clouds. Then all the flames shrank back in an instant. Marco roared towards the sky, and countless flames condensed into an extremely blazing blue fireball above him, like a small sun. Fong de Phoenix! The phoenix suddenly lowered its head, and a fireball of terrifying energy blasted straight forward. It was like a fireball came out of its mouth. And this move, it was created by Marco in memory of Ace. Ace's ultimate move, Great Flame Ring, Flame Emperor, is just like this. Garp dodged the electromagnetic cannon, but still wanted to kill Marco, the awakened mythical beast, first. But when he saw this scene, he was suddenly stunned. He saw Ace's shadow. The boy with the orange cowboy hat seemed to be standing behind Marco, and the two of them worked together to launch an attack. Yen Emperor Phoenix. Hesitation. Boom! Domination shockwave. Yen Emperor Phoenix. Explosive collision. The two sides immediately began to enter the terrifying stage of confrontation. The golden light and blue flame complement each other, shocking. Old man! As he shouted, Garp's vision suddenly darkened. Kid swung his fist made of steel and hit Garp, who was distracted, head on. Bang! Garp's body flew out and fell heavily to the ground. A large amount of smoke and dust was splashed. Kid is a real reckless man. A fearless and reckless man. This can be seen from his deeds. He challenged the red-haired guy directly and broke his arm. He just provoked Yuan without thinking of the consequences and started a new life. Now, when the tough guy Garp's heart is full of tenderness, he is beaten away by his iron fist. It's really amazing. You are so rude, little brat. In the smoke and dust, Garp walked out slowly, exuding an extremely oppressive aura. There was blood flowing from his forehead, where he had just been hit by Kid's iron fist. But not only does it not affect the combat power, but it makes Garp look even more terrifying. What a scary smell! Is this the marine hero? Lousy won't be afraid. As Kid spoke, the steel arm once again gathered the power of the electromagnetic cannon and aimed it at Garp. Laugh. The electromagnetic cannon's attack was halfway concentrated and had not yet been released. Whoosh! A figure with an oppressive aura like a beast appeared in front of Kid. The fist wrapped with Conqueror's domineering power suddenly blasted out. A red arc exploded between the two people. Clang! Kid's mechanical arm turned into flying pieces of broken steel. Garp knocked Kid back to his arm-breaking form with one punch. The Kid's eyes widened, his expression slightly dull. Broken iron filings flew around him like a rain. He was a little confused. I never expected Garp to be so terrifying that he could smash his robotic arm with just one punch. He had felt Garp's wrath. Boom! Boom! Before Kid could make any move, he flew straight out and embedded himself heavily into the ground. Garp's face was extremely gloomy, and his whole body exuded a murderous intent that seemed to be tangible. He didn't look at Kid again. Turn around and walk towards Pluton. His current momentum is such that he can kill gods and Buddhas if they stand in his way. But just after Garp took a dozen steps, there was a clanging sound of steel colliding behind me. Hello? You want to leave now? You think Lousy is too weak? The Kid crawled out from the ground, covered in mud and with tattered clothes. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his fist and slowly stood up. All the surrounding steel gathered towards him. Magnetic Demon! Kid's ability awakens, just like creating a steel mecha. He flew into the steel armor and controlled it with magnetism. Kid attacks Garp again. Garp had already stopped and turned quietly, looking at the huge steel monster, clenching his fists and blasting out fearlessly. The brave Kid fights Garp again. Suddenly, there were inexplicable fluctuations in the sky. The thick clouds rolled up without warning, and lightning flashed through the clouds, becoming brighter and brighter. A violent wind blows. A storm is gathering in the clouds. Amidst the lightning and thunder, countless destructive thunders gather together. The azure blue lightning spread out without warning, yet continued to merge, making its power even more terrifying. In the blink of an eye, pitch-black lightning appeared. A dense ocean of black lightning formed in the sky, merging into the storm, rolling up the power of heaven and earth. Such a devastating scene appeared suddenly. It caught everyone off guard. Look at the sky! The lightning has turned black. Usopp's calves were trembling. What an amazing wave! If it falls down, the whole island will be destroyed. Frankie was horrified. This fluctuation is no weaker than Pluton. But the feeling of oppression is more terrifying than Pluton's attack. Because Pluton's attack was not aimed at them. But this attack was directed at them. Not good. How to resist this kind of attack? Sanji was horrified. The scene of destruction in the sky was truly horrifying. This is the attack that destroyed the Valley of God. Kaido's eyes narrowed, remembering that he had seen this familiar wave before. But at that time I was just looking at it from afar. This time, I really have to face it in person. It's Uranus, that guy is crazy. He doesn't even care about the lives of people in the world government? The Golden Lion Shiki screamed. He didn't expect that Yin would directly use Uranus to attack. Indiscriminate attack. This is to bury all the people in the world government and marine together. It's ancient weapon again. These lunatics. The world will be destroyed in your hands sooner or later. Vegapunk cursed, completely in despair. I'm going to die, what else can I change? When he realized that it was Uranus who was attacking, he gave up all thought of resistance. Destroy it. Laozi is tired. Not to mention Kaido and Golden Lion were shocked. Even the people in the world government were all confused. It was indeed Uranus' attack. Lord M launched Uranus. At this moment, Galen Shing suddenly felt a little dazed. He didn't expect that he and the entire Knights of God were people that M could abandon. If he died under Uranus' attack, he would definitely die with regret. Impossible! How could Lord Yim activate Uranus at this time? But this is the power of ancient weapon. We are also going to be buried under Uranus. The Knights of God were stunned for a moment. They never thought that they would die in this way. Who would be willing to die under the attack of Uranus? This is completely equivalent to being killed by one's own people. Alas! Gangukong sighed deeply, looking sad. He had nothing to say. He couldn't change anything about the situation. Why on earth? Nearly 100,000 elite troops from the world government and Marines are all here. Why are you launching Uranus? Don't you care about their lives? John Gui gritted his teeth and roared madly. He was still fighting against Marco. The shock wave and the immortal fire collided violently, and it was difficult to tell the winner for a while. But both of them were extremely determined. No one will stop. But at this moment, John Gui's heart seemed to be dead, and the disappointment in his heart turned into hatred. He really couldn't imagine that the king of the world sitting on the void throne didn't care about the lives of the world government and the 100,000 Marines. Even the Knights of God were abandoned. How could this not be disappointing? Asshole! Garp yelled. At this moment, the anger in his heart was stronger than ever before. The Marine whom he had protected at all costs turned out to be abandoned at this moment. Garp's heart is filled with sorrow. Pluton is no longer available. Everyone will die here. Luo stopped what he was doing, looked up in despair at the thunderstorm that had accumulated to the limit, and felt hopeless. Everyone on the island was prepared to die. No one thinks that this kind of attack is something that humans can withstand. Their death has become a fact. No one can change it. Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei. All stopped, waiting for the final death sentence. Even Zoro didn't know how to face the transcendent power of heaven and earth at this moment. In a mood of despair, Yuan put his hands behind his back and slowly raised his head, looking at the familiar waves of storm and thunder. A blow that destroyed heaven and earth. This was the scene 40 years ago. Only 40 years ago he had ignored the Uranus attack. 40 years later, even more so. Uranus? And Yuan raised his arm and pointed toward the sky. Uranus' attack was far more powerful than the one that destroyed the Valley of the Gods 40 years ago. Now the thunder is surging, forming black lightning. The power is extremely terrifying. And push Uranus to its maximum strength, consuming an unknown amount of energy. Just the fluctuations alone were enough to make the four emperors feel powerless. It's hard to imagine what this attack would look like once it landed. What a scene of destruction it would be. Within the waters of Future Island, all members of the Blackbird pirates boarded the pirate ship, shuttled across the sea, and quickly approached Future Island. At this moment, everyone was shocked by the scene before them. What's going on in the sky over there? Meow. The king of evil government was stunned for a moment, and his hair stood on end. Being so far away made him feel scared. Such a strong power fluctuation. Could it be an ancient weapon? Someone has used an ancient weapon. Lafitte's eyes showed a hint of shock as he reacted. Akiji frowned, his tone low, and spoke in a cold voice. The attack that destroyed Future Island is Uranus in the hands of the world government. He knows that Uranus is in the hands of the world government. At this moment, his face suddenly became gloomy. Is it really Uranus? Is the world government crazy? Drunkard Jada was usually drunk, but he suddenly sobered up and said in surprise. Akainu, Garp, Sengoku and the elite of the world government are all on the island. Do you want them to die together? Thanks to Vegapunk's reporting bug, the Blackbird pirates learned about the situation on Future Island. They might be unfamiliar with the Knights of God and Cyborg, but judging from their strength, they are definitely the top force of the world government. Akainu, Sengoku, and Garp are very familiar to them. So, when they saw that Uranus' attack was about to fall on Future Island, everyone on Blackbeard's ship was stunned. Who on earth is that man? Why would the world government stop at nothing to kill him? Yushiria's eyes flickered, and he felt uneasy. The only person who can be sacrificed for Marine and world government is the mysterious man who controls Pluton. For Empress Kaido, Big Mom? Legend Pirate Golden Lion Shiki? Straw Hat Boy Luffy? They are all unworthy of such a crazy sacrifice. Thief, ha ha ha! This ruthless guy really impressed Lousy. But as long as those bastards on the island die, their devil fruit abilities will be lost to the sea. And the ability of that mysterious man. Blackbeard opened his arms as if embracing the wind and waves, and laughed loudly towards the sky. One foot was on the railing at the bow, and darkness was flowing in his eyes. The black cloak fluttered behind him. He was fearless and extremely arrogant. Blackbeard felt even happier when he saw that those guys were all going to die. I wish they were all dead. His ambition is to fight for the world, and those guys are his enemies. But what he wanted most was Yuan's ability. Although Blackbeard didn't know what specific abilities Yuan had, he absolutely didn't believe that Yuan was not a devil fruit user. Isn't it that devil fruit users have all kinds of abilities? Absolutely impossible. Blackbeard guessed that it might be some special devil fruit that had never appeared before. Copying abilities? Or some special way of storing abilities? Ha! Looks like fate is on Lousy's side. Lousy now just needs to wait here for their death. When Blackbeard thought that all his competitors were going to die, he couldn't hide his smile at all. Great! They have several phantom beast species, and I will definitely snatch them all back for the captain when the time comes, Badger said immediately. He is a famous devil fruit hunter. As long as the abilities of these dead people appear in the sea, he will definitely attack immediately. However, the world government's vitality is severely damaged, but Uranus is still in their hands. We'd better snatch that Pluton on the island, so that we can fight against Uranus. Daipun, the Nine-Tails Fox ability user, said thoughtfully. After a brief shock, they actually began to think about their next plan. It seems that those on the island will die under the attack of Uranus. Pluton may not be able to survive such a terrorist attack by Uranus, Rain Shuria said with a frown. They were originally eager to avenge Van Oka, but now they seemed to be witnessing a scene that shocked the world. Ha ha! No matter what you do, as long as you kill Mary Joa, Uranus will be useless. Blackbeard laughed dismissively. As long as we board Marieja, how can Uranus be used? Is it possible to launch an attack on Mariejoa? But Uranus' power is really terrifying. Poison Q groaned weakly while lying on the horse. He could even imagine that if he were within the range of Uranus' attack, he might not even have the courage to escape. Hateful. Akiji's face was cold as he stared at the vision of heaven and earth. Under the cloak and robe, his fists were clenched tightly, and his nails dug into his palms without even noticing. It is different from the ambitious reaction of the Blackbird pirates. The red-haired pirates were confused in the storm. You say that's Uranus' power? It's really crazy. No one on the entire island can survive now. The two leaders of the giant soldier pirates, Tori and Broggy, were extremely shocked. A stern look flashed in the red-haired eye. What on earth is the world government going to do? For that one person, everyone is going to die. He couldn't understand the decision. But now they can't get close and can only watch the destruction of Future Island. Usopp. Jessup lit a cigarette for the first time, his eyes a little moist. Beckman murmured. Knights of God, World Government Commander Cyborg Sora, Marine Fleet Admiral Akainu, former Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Marine Hero Garp, General Kizaru, Fujitora, Green Ox, War Weapon Seraph, World Government and Marines 100,000 elites. And the 5 elders who were killed by Pluton. For Emperors Kaido, Big Mom and their pirate group, the group of people from Wano country. Luffy's pirates, the Heart Pirates, Kid's Pirates. Buggy, Hawkeye, Crocodile, Vegapunk. Kasayun and Sons, Golden Lion Shiki. He carefully took stock of the losses that would be caused by this battle and the fallen strong men, and his voice gradually trembled. These people and forces died on Future Island. They simply destroyed half of the world. Beckman's heart was filled with turmoil. This consequence is so shocking. If these people die, the sea will be completely in chaos. Neither the world government nor Marine may have the power to control the sea. That's crazy! Lackey stepped back, shocked. How ruthless do you have to be to do this? Thousands of lives were abandoned. Don't even care if it causes world riots. Even if they are extremely vicious pirates, they are not so cruel. Shanks looked up, his eyes silent. Although Uranus' attack has not yet fallen, he seems to have seen the ending. Ancient weapon Uranus full blow. Who can survive?